You did not come to this night by accident. No one ever arrives at a moment of true inward change by accident. Long before you pressed your head upon the pillow, long before the room grew quiet, and the concerns of the day began to loosen their hold upon you, something within you had already begun to move. A deeper part of you, older than fear and wiser than circumstance, has been calling you toward another state of being. And tonight, if you will allow it, you will answer that call. You may have spent many nights asking for a sign, hoping for an opening, wondering when life would finally turn in your favor. You may have watched others receive unexpected help, sudden opportunity, healing, reconciliation, or freedom, and quietly asked why such things seemed to pass you by. Perhaps you have called these events miracles, and imagined that they belong to the fortunate, the chosen, or the unusually blessed. But I tell you now, a miracle is not a rare favor granted by a distant power. A miracle is the natural expression of a state that has already been accepted in consciousness. The world calls an event miraculous when it cannot see the invisible cause that produced it. It sees the sudden letter, but not the assumption that preceded it. It sees the unexpected meeting, but not the inner conversation that invited it. It sees the door open, but not the quiet conviction carried into sleep night after night. Men marvel at the harvest, because they never witnessed the seed entering the soil. Yet the harvest is lawful, and the seed was planted in the secret chamber of imagination. Tonight, you are not here merely to listen for comfort. You are here to change the state from which your life proceeds. You are here to fall asleep, not as one who waits for miracles, but as one to whom miracles are natural. Before sleep carries you beyond the reach of these words, I will show you the difference between pleading for a miracle and becoming inwardly magnetic to miracles. That difference is subtle, but it is the difference between longing and possession, between standing outside the door and discovering that the key has always been within your own hand. And before we go deeper, make one small outward gesture that agrees with the inward decision you are making tonight. Subscribe to this channel, not as a casual act, but as a quiet sign that you are willing to return to these teachings until the new state feels natural. Let that simple movement be your first declaration that you are no longer content to sleep in the old identity. Do it now, gently and without strain. Subscribe, and let the act represent your consent to a new way of seeing, feeling, and being. Each time you return, you will not be beginning again. You will be watering the same seed, strengthening the same assumption, and learning to fall asleep as the person you have chosen to become. Now let the room around you become less important. You need not force yourself to relax. You need not struggle to silence every thought. Simply notice that the day is ending. The voices that demanded your attention are growing faint. The duties of the outer world can wait. The conversations of the day are finished. The doors are closed. The lamps are lowered. And for a little while, there is nothing for you to solve. Feel the weight of your body resting where it is. Feel how the bed receives you, without asking anything in return. Your shoulders need not carry tomorrow tonight. Your hands need not hold the burdens of the day. Your face need not remain arranged for the world. Let the muscles soften in their own time. Let the breath find its own quiet rhythm. You are not trying to make sleep come. You are simply allowing the outer world to recede so the inner world may become more vivid. This hour is more important than most men know. They imagine sleep to be an interruption, a blank interval between one day and the next. But I have found it to be one of the great doors of creation. As the senses grow still, the mind becomes less argumentative. The facts that seem so solid beneath the light of day begin to lose their authority. The old story no longer speaks with the same force. And in that gentle twilight between waking and sleep, an assumption may pass into the depths of consciousness and begin its secret work. What you carry into sleep matters, not because some power outside you stands ready to judge your final thought, but because the state in which you fall asleep is the state you are consenting to inhabit. Sleep does not create a law that was absent during the day. It reveals the law more clearly, because resistance is softened. The conscious mind lays down its arguments, and the deeper mind receives what is felt as true. This is why so many awaken to a repetition of yesterday. They carry yesterday with them into sleep. They rehearse the insult, the unpaid account, the ache, the loneliness, the disappointment, and then surrender consciousness while still clothed in the state they wish to escape. They do not know that they are giving instruction. They believe they are merely remembering. But every memory, accepted with feeling, becomes a present assumption, and every present assumption seeks expression. Tonight will be different. You will not take the old world with you across the threshold. You will not fall asleep as the one who is waiting to be chosen, waiting to be rescued, waiting to be noticed, waiting for life to become kinder. You will begin to discover the quiet dignity of one who knows that the cause is within. You will enter sleep as one who has already been received by life, already guided, already surrounded by an unseen order that works toward fulfillment. There is a great difference between asking for a miracle and becoming magnetic to miracles. The one who asks often stands inwardly in the state of not having. The request may be sincere, even passionate, but beneath it lives the confession. It is absent. It is far away. I do not possess it. And consciousness, which responds not merely to words but to the state behind the words, continues to outpicture absence. But the one who becomes magnetic does something altogether different. Such a person does not strain to pull good toward himself. He assumes a nature to which good belongs. He does not chase signs. He becomes the state from which signs naturally appear. He does not beg life to prove that he is blessed. He accepts blessedness as his identity and allows life to become the witness. You have seen a magnet draw to itself what corresponds to its nature. It does not shout. It does not plead. It does not run from place to place in search of what it desires. It simply possesses a condition, and that condition produces an answering movement. So it is with consciousness. When you assume the state of one to whom unexpected good is natural, the world begins to move in correspondence with that state. Do not misunderstand me. I am not asking you to pretend that every outer problem has vanished. I am asking you to recognize that the outer condition is not the cause. The visible world is the echo, not the voice. It is the reflection, not the face. It is the harvest, not the seed. If you attempt to change the echo while continuing to speak the same inner words, you will exhaust yourself. If you strike the mirror because you dislike the reflection, you will only injure your hand. Leave the mirror and change the face it reflects. Perhaps the facts before you seem stubborn. Perhaps there is an unanswered question, a letter that has not arrived, a person who has not spoken, a sum of money that seems beyond reach, or a condition that has persisted so long it feels permanent. Yet permanence belongs only to the state you continue to occupy. Change the state, and what appeared fixed begins to loosen. Change the inner identity, and events that reason could not arrange begin to form a bridge toward the new assumption. This is the first secret of tonight. You are not attempting to persuade the world to give you miracles. You are withdrawing your consent from the identity to whom miracles seem impossible. You are no longer saying, "Why not me?" You are beginning to feel, quietly and without display, "Why should not good come to me? Why should not life arrange itself beautifully? Why should not unexpected help, perfect timing, and unseen favor be natural in my experience?" Let those questions remain gentle. They are not demands placed upon the world. They are openings within consciousness. They loosen the old certainty of disappointment. They make room for another possibility. And possibility, when accepted and felt, becomes assumption. Assumption, when persisted in, becomes fact. As you lie here, there is no need to know the form your miracle will take. The mind is often too limited when it attempts to choose every detail. It may ask for one door, while a greater door is already being prepared. It may demand one person, one route, one method, one date, and in doing so, it may overlook the vast intelligence of imagination. Your task is not to dictate the bridge. Your task is to occupy the end. So tonight, rather than selecting one extraordinary event and struggling to believe in it, you will begin with something deeper. You will assume the identity of one whose life is responsive, guided, and open to unexpected good. You will feel what it is like to be the person who can say, with quiet sincerity, "Things have a way of working out beautifully for me. Help appears when it is needed. The right path reveals itself. What seemed impossible becomes natural." Notice the feeling behind these words. It is not frantic excitement. It is not a desperate attempt to convince yourself. It is relief. It is the soft release that comes when you no longer believe you must carry the whole world alone. It is the inward breath of one who has ceased fighting shadows and has returned to the cause. The body understands this relief. The shoulders soften. The jaw releases. The breath deepens without command. The heart no longer races ahead into a feared tomorrow. There is a quiet sense that the answer exists even before you see it, that the road is forming even before you recognize its first step, that the unseen has not forgotten you. This is where the night becomes sacred. Not because darkness possesses a magic absent from the day, but because darkness allows you to turn away from appearances. In the day, the senses insist upon their evidence. At night, with your eyes closed and the room fading from awareness, you are free to choose another evidence. You may hear inwardly the words you long to hear. You may feel the hand you wish to hold. You may know the relief you thought only an outer event could give you. And here lies a mystery that the world has not understood. If an event would produce a feeling in you, then the feeling assumed can call forth the event or its equivalent. If a fortunate turn would give you peace, then peace accepted now becomes the seed of a fortunate turn. If welcome news would make you grateful, gratitude felt now prepares the way for welcome news. If a miracle would make you feel chosen, safe, and loved, then to assume those feelings is to begin living from the miracle before it appears. The natural man says, "When it happens, I will believe." The awakened imagination says, "I believe, and therefore I shall see." One waits for the reflection to smile first. The other changes the expression and knows the mirror must answer. You need not force belief tonight. Force belongs to uncertainty. Simply become willing to experience, for a few moments, how it would feel if life were already conspiring in your favor. Let yourself borrow that state until it no longer feels borrowed. Let it rest upon you like a warm garment. Let the old identity loosen and fall away, not through struggle, but through disuse. Perhaps a thought will rise and say, "But nothing has changed." Do not argue with it. The thought belongs to the day that is ending. Let it pass like a carriage moving along a distant road. You need not climb into it. Return instead to the quiet sensation that a new order has begun within you. Perhaps another thought will ask, "What if I am only imagining?" Then remember that imagination is not an idle faculty. It is the workshop in which every state is first accepted. All that now appears solid was once invisible. Every building was first an image. Every journey was first conceived. Every act was first entertained in consciousness. Why then should the new pattern of your life be born elsewhere? You are not deceiving yourself by assuming a nobler state. You have deceived yourself whenever you accepted limitation as final. You have mistaken repetition for law, disappointment for destiny, and present evidence for eternal truth. Tonight, you correct that mistake, not with violence, but with a new consent. Something within you has been waiting for this consent. It has never ceased offering another state. Even in your darkest hour, the image of freedom appeared because freedom exists as a possible state. Even in loneliness, you could imagine companionship because love exists within consciousness. Even in lack, you could conceive abundance because the state of supply was present and available to be occupied. Desire itself is evidence that another state is calling you. You do not desire what consciousness cannot contain. The longing is not punishment. It is an invitation. It is the greater self asking the present self to rise and wear a new garment. Tonight, the garment is simple. You are the one to whom miracles are natural, not because you are better than another, not because you have earned special favor, not because a distant authority has selected you and rejected someone else. You are magnetic to miracles, because you are learning to occupy the state from which the unexpected good of life may flow without resistance. And as you listen, allow the phrase to become less strange. Magnetic to miracles. It does not mean that every moment must be dramatic. It means that beneath ordinary appearances, an extraordinary order is at work. It means that a conversation may contain the answer, a delay may redirect you, a forgotten acquaintance may become the bridge, a quiet idea may save years of effort. A closed door may turn your steps toward the entrance that was always meant for you. What the world later calls coincidence, you will recognize as correspondence. What it calls luck, you will recognize as the outpicturing of state. What it calls impossible, you will recognize as an assumption finding its form. For now, you need only remain here. Let the day become distant. Let the body grow heavier. Let my voice become a companion at the edge of sleep. You do not need to remember every word. You do not need to remain awake until the end. The deeper mind receives the feeling, and the feeling is what matters. Before sleep takes you completely, I will lead you further into the distinction that changes everything. You will see why those who beg for miracles often remain in waiting, while those who accept the miraculous as natural become living centers of unexpected good. You will learn how to carry one quiet assumption across the threshold of sleep and let it become the hidden cause of a change tomorrow. But even now, before the explanation is complete, the change has begun. The moment you considered that miracles might be lawful, the old belief weakened. The moment you imagined yourself as one to whom good comes naturally, you touched the new state. The moment relief entered your body, even faintly, the seed found soil. Do not dig it up. Do not measure it. Do not ask whether it is working. Rest. Let the night receive it. Let the unseen do what the unseen has always done. Let consciousness take the impression and prepare its expression. You did not come to this night by accident. You came because the old state has exhausted its claim upon you. You came because something within you knows that life can answer differently. You came because the one who waits for miracles is ready to become the one from whom miracles naturally proceed. So rest now, gently. The room is quiet. The day is fading. The body is supported. The breath is soft. And within you, beyond the noise of circumstance, a new declaration is beginning to form. I am guided. I am received by life. I am open to unexpected good. I am one to whom beautiful arrangements are natural. I am no longer waiting outside the miracle. I am entering the state from which miracles are born. Most people speak of miracles as though they were rare visitors who choose their houses carefully. They imagine that a miracle passes over one roof and descends upon another for reasons no one can understand. They believe some are favored, some are forgotten, some are born beneath a fortunate star, and others must endure a life in which nothing unexpected ever comes except disappointment. I tell you, this belief is itself one of the greatest barriers to the miraculous. A miracle does not avoid a man because he is unworthy. It does not seek another because she is more pleasing to heaven. The power that gives form to experience is not partial. It does not keep a private list of those who deserve relief and those who must remain in bondage. It responds to states. It answers the conception of being that a person carries, often silently and unknowingly, from one day into the next. Men call miracles rare because they occupy states in which miracles are expected to be rare. They rise in the morning expecting the familiar. They anticipate the same resistance, the same difficulty, the same delay. They walk through the day looking for proof that life is hard, that people cannot be trusted, that money comes slowly, that love is uncertain, that good news belongs to another. And because the world faithfully reflects the state from which they observe it, they find what they expected to find. Then, when something beautiful occurs, they call it an exception. They say, how strange, how fortunate, how impossible to explain. But the event was not lawless. It merely arose from a cause they did not see. The secret movements of consciousness are hidden from the eye. No one sees the conversation you repeat inwardly before sleep. No one hears the sentence you speak beneath your breath when disappointment visits you. No one witnesses the image that has become so familiar that you no longer recognize it as imagination. Yet these quiet activities form the emotional dwelling place from which your life proceeds. You do not merely visit states, you live in them, and whatever state becomes your home must furnish the rooms of your experience. Consider a person who has lived for many years expecting difficulty. She may pray each evening for relief. She may ask for a sign, a change, a sudden opening. Yet beneath the prayer there remains a deeper conviction. She still feels herself to be one whom life overlooks. She still expects every solution to contain a new problem. She still imagines good fortune approaching others while passing her door. Her lips may ask for a miracle, but her identity continues to say, "Miracles do not happen to me." The deeper identity is the command. This is why desire alone does not transform a life. Almost everyone desires something better. The lonely desire companionship. The burdened desire freedom. The anxious desire peace. The one in debt desires supply. Yet desire, when joined to the feeling of absence, may keep a person conscious only of what is missing. A thirsty man may speak of water all day and remain identified with thirst. To speak of the miracle is not the same as to live from the miracle. To admire another person's deliverance is not the same as to accept deliverance as natural for yourself. The ordinary man looks outward and waits for evidence before permitting himself to feel hope. He says, "When the letter arrives, I will feel relieved. When the debt is settled, I will rest. When that person speaks kindly, I will feel loved. When the path opens, I will believe I am guided." He makes his inner state dependent upon the outer event, and so he waits. But the awakened man reverses the order. He does not deny the appearance before him, but he refuses to make it the author of his being. He says, "If the letter had already arrived, what would I feel? If the matter were settled, how would I rest? If love were restored, what quiet warmth would fill me? If the path were open, how would I breathe tonight?" Then he accepts the feeling first. He allows life to become the evidence afterward. This is not foolishness. It is the intelligent use of the law, for the outer fact is the consequence of an inner state. To wait for the consequence before assuming the cause is to reverse the creative order. It is like waiting for a room to become warm before lighting the fire. The fire must be kindled first. The inner state is that fire. I have seen people spend years searching outside themselves for the person, the institution, the opportunity, or the circumstance that would rescue them. They moved from one hope to another, always believing that the next door might contain the answer. Yet they carried the same conception of themselves through every door. They entered each new opportunity as the one who expected rejection. They entered each relationship as the one who feared abandonment. They approached every financial possibility as the one who believed there was never enough. Then they blamed the door, the person, the hour, or fate itself. But a change of scenery is not always a change of state. A man may cross an ocean and find the same world waiting for him on the opposite shore, because he carried himself with him. The world does not merely respond to where you go. It responds to who you are conscious of being when you arrive. This is why I tell you that there is no outer journey more important than the movement from one state to another. You may remain in the same room and travel farther than one who has crossed continents. You may lie quietly upon your bed and move from bondage to freedom, from expectation of loss to certainty of support, from the identity of the forgotten one to the identity of the favored one. Once that movement is made inwardly, the outer journey begins without your strain. A door may open that you did not know existed. A person may speak whose name had not entered your mind. A debt may be resolved through an arrangement no calculation could have produced. A relationship may soften after years of silence. A needed letter may arrive on the very day when reason had declared the matter hopeless. A journey may become possible through means entirely different from those you had considered. The rational mind sees these events only after they have taken form. Because it did not build them consciously, it calls them miracles. But consciousness knew the end before reason discovered the path. The path was contained in the state. Imagine a woman who needs to make a journey, yet sees no means of doing so. She has examined every ordinary possibility. The cost is beyond her reach. The person from whom she expected assistance cannot help. The appointed time draws near, and every visible road appears closed. If she remains in the state of one who cannot go, every new fact will seem to confirm impossibility. She will hear refusal in neutral words. She will interpret delay as defeat. She may fail to notice an opening because it does not resemble the route she expected. But suppose, before sleep, she ceases to examine the means. Suppose she imagines herself already at the destination. She feels the floor beneath her feet. She hears a familiar voice welcome her. She senses the quiet satisfaction of arrival. She does not ask how she came. She occupies only the state that implies the journey is complete. Then she sleeps. The next morning may appear ordinary. No trumpet sounds. No mysterious hand places a ticket beside her bed. Yet during the day, someone mentions an arrangement. A relative writes. A change in another person's plans leaves a place available. A sum of money arrives from a forgotten source. One incident leads naturally to another until the journey is made. The world calls it fortunate timing. I call it a state becoming visible. Now consider a man burdened by an obligation he cannot presently meet. Each time he thinks of it, his body tightens. He imagines accusation, humiliation, and loss. Though he says he wants freedom, he repeatedly enters the state of one trapped. The obligation itself may be real as a present fact, but his fear keeps renewing the psychological state that surrounds it. Suppose he changes the inner scene. Instead of imagining the demand, he hears the words, "The matter is settled." He sees the paper marked complete. He feels his shoulders release. He allows himself one quiet sigh of relief and rests in that sensation. He does not pretend to know the method. He does not force a particular person to act. He simply occupies the end. An adjustment may then be offered. A payment expected months later may arrive early. A forgotten credit may be discovered. Work may appear. Another person may propose terms more favorable than he had imagined. The event may unfold through such ordinary means that an observer sees nothing supernatural. Yet the man knows something shifted before the arrangement appeared. The relief was first experienced within. The outer resolution followed. The miraculous often disguises itself as the natural. This is why many fail to recognize the power they have used. They imagine a miracle must arrive with thunder, light, and astonishment. But the law prefers no spectacle. It moves people and events so quietly that the fulfillment often seems inevitable after it occurs. A person says, "It would have happened anyway." Perhaps, but what you call anyway may be the bridge formed by the state you accepted. Do not look only for dramatic signs. A changed tone of voice may be the beginning of reconciliation. An invitation may be the first step toward a new life. A thought that enters quietly while you walk may contain the solution to a problem reason could not solve. A delay may prevent you from taking the wrong road. A closed door may turn you toward the one that opens into your true desire. The miraculous does not always announce itself at the beginning. Often it reveals its nature only when the whole pattern is complete. There was a woman who believed herself permanently separated from someone she loved. The disagreement had hardened into silence, and each passing day seemed to make reconciliation less likely. She longed for peace, but whenever she thought of the person, she rehearsed the injury. She heard the harsh words again. She imagined new accusations. She prepared inwardly for a conversation she feared. She desired harmony while dwelling in conflict. One evening she chose another state. She did not attempt to determine who should apologize or how contact should be restored. She simply imagined hearing the voice of the other person speak with tenderness. She felt the relief of knowing that all bitterness had passed. She allowed the warmth of reconciliation to become more real than the memory of separation. Within a short time, a message came through an ordinary channel. The words were simple. Nothing in them appeared miraculous to an outsider. But the tone had changed. One exchange led to another. The old conflict dissolved, and the other person changed first. In the visible sequence, it may have appeared so, but the state of reconciliation was accepted before the outer words were spoken. This is why I tell you not to wait for another to change before you permit yourself to feel peace. Do not make your inner freedom dependent upon someone else's first movement. Enter the state in which the matter is already harmonious, and let life determine the means by which harmony appears. The same is true of opportunity. A man may say, "No one will give me a chance." He may repeat this so often that it becomes the lens through which he sees every encounter. A neutral pause becomes rejection. A request for patience becomes refusal. A small opening seems too insignificant to matter. His state filters the world until it resembles his expectation. Yet another man, with no greater skill and no greater advantage, assumes that he is welcomed, valued, and usefully placed. He moves differently. He speaks without apology. He notices possibilities the first man overlooks. Others respond to the quiet conviction he carries. The world then says he was fortunate, but fortune often wears the face of self-concept. You need not force any of these events. Force belongs to the belief that the outer world is independent and must be conquered. When you know the cause is within, you cease striking at appearances. You become attentive to the state you are inhabiting. This does not make you passive. It makes action more intelligent. Action taken from fear carries the confusion of fear. Action taken from fulfillment carries the direction of fulfillment. When you occupy the state of one who is guided, you may feel moved to write a letter. You may visit a place you had not planned to visit. You may speak to someone you would ordinarily have passed in silence. You may decline an offer that once would have tempted you. These movements arise naturally from the new state. They are not efforts to make the miracle happen. They are parts of the miracle happening. There is a profound difference between anxious action and inspired movement. Anxious action says, "I must do something quickly, or all is lost." Inspired movement says, "This feels natural, I will follow it." The first springs from fear of absence. The second springs from the assumption of guidance. You may not always distinguish them by the size of the action. A single sentence written from the right state may accomplish what years of struggle could not. A quiet refusal may protect the path that 100 frantic attempts would have disturbed. Life responds not only to what you do, but to the state from which the doing proceeds. The world of men worships visible causes. It says this person succeeded because of a meeting. That family was restored because of a conversation. This debt was settled because of an agreement. That journey became possible because someone offered assistance. These are the visible links in the chain. But the chain was set in motion by a state. The meeting, conversation, agreement, and assistance are not denied. They are honored as instruments. Yet an instrument is not the music. The music begins in consciousness, and the outer means give it sound. When you understand this, you stop resenting the people through whom good has not yet come. You stop pleading with one particular door. You stop believing that your fate rests in the hands of a single person. No person is the source. No institution is the source. No circumstance is the source. They may become channels, but the source is the state accepted within. This realization brings a great peace. You no longer need to control every actor in the play. You need only remain faithful to the ending. The actors will find their places. The necessary words will be spoken. The scenes will arrange themselves. Some who seem important now may disappear. Others whom you have never met may enter at the appointed hour. Do not confuse the cast with the author. Your imagination is writing from the state you occupy. Most people unknowingly write the same chapter again and again. They wake each day emotionally where they were yesterday. They expect repetition, and repetition comes. They call this reality. But reality is more fluid than habit permits them to see. The morning does not demand that you be yesterday's self. The world may remember your former state for a little while, but you are not required to renew it. Each night offers a secret opportunity to withdraw life from an old pattern and give life to another. This is especially true now, as you rest at the edge of sleep. The mind that has spent years expecting difficulty may still present its familiar arguments. It may say, "Be sensible. Nothing changes suddenly. Do not expect too much. Protect yourself from disappointment." Recognize that voice for what it is. It is not wisdom. It is the old state defending its continuity. Habit often disguises itself as realism. Fear often calls itself prudence. Resignation often pretends to be maturity. But no limitation becomes true merely because it has been repeated for many years. The bars of a prison may be familiar, but familiarity does not make them part of your nature. Tonight you are learning to distinguish between fact and state. A fact is a present appearance. A state is the consciousness that gives birth to future appearances. You may acknowledge the fact without worshipping it. You may see the closed door and still occupy the feeling of welcome. You may notice the unanswered letter and still feel the certainty of good news. You may know that the account is small and still rest in the state of one who is supported. This is not denial. It is creative precedence. You are giving the invisible cause priority over the visible effect. The person who waits for evidence will always arrive late to creation. He sees only what has already been formed. He reacts to yesterday and calls the reaction practical. But the one who assumes the feeling first participates in the formation of tomorrow. You must decide which person you will be. Will you continue to stand before life with folded arms, saying, "Show me, and then I will believe"? Or will you enter the quiet chamber of imagination and say, "I will accept the state now, and life will show me its reflection"? The second way requires courage, but not strain. It requires willingness to feel what the senses have not yet confirmed. It requires a temporary withdrawal of loyalty from appearances. It asks you to trust the creative power within more than the unfinished evidence without. This trust may begin very softly. You need not feel absolute certainty in a single instant. Begin with permission. Permit yourself to imagine that the old pattern is not eternal. Permit yourself to consider that help may already be moving. Permit yourself to feel that the matter may be resolved in a way beyond your present understanding. Permit yourself to rest as though life were not against you. A small opening in consciousness is enough for a new state to enter, and once entered, it may be revisited until it becomes familiar. This is how miracles cease to appear rare. You do not multiply them by anxiously searching for them. You change the home from which you look upon life. The person who dwells in suspicion finds reasons to suspect. The person who dwells in abandonment finds signs of absence. The person who dwells in divine support begins to discover assistance in places previously ignored. The world contains countless possibilities at every moment, but your state determines which possibilities become visible, believable, and natural to you. Imagine consciousness as a great house with many rooms. In one room, life is difficult and good is scarce. In another, doors open at the right time. In one room, the inhabitant expects rejection. In another, she is welcomed. In one room, every delay is interpreted as defeat. In another, delay is trusted as preparation. All rooms exist, but you experience the room you occupy. For years, you may have lived in one room so consistently that you came to believe it was the whole house. You decorated it with memories, repeated its stories, and invited others to confirm its limitations. Yet tonight, you have discovered a door. You need not destroy the old room. You need only leave it. Enter the room in which unexpected good is natural. Sit there in imagination. Feel its atmosphere. Notice how the person who lives there breathes. Notice the absence of inner pleading. Notice the quiet expectation that answers exist, that paths appear, that kindness comes, that life is capable of arranging what reason cannot arrange. Remain there long enough for the room to feel like home. For life repeatedly reflects the emotional home in which you dwell. If you visit hope briefly, but return each night to despair, despair remains your dwelling. If you speak of miracles for an hour, but spend the day inwardly rehearsing disaster, disaster remains familiar. But if you return gently, persistently, lovingly to the state of one who is guided, then guidance becomes natural. Naturalness is the great secret. A miracle becomes possible when the state that implies it ceases to feel extraordinary. The wealthy man does not marvel each morning that he has means. The loved woman does not astonish herself every hour because she is cherished. The welcomed guest does not stand outside wondering whether she may enter. These conditions feel natural to those who occupy them. So your task is not to strain for astonishment. It is to make goodness natural. Let support feel natural. Let favorable movement feel natural. Let unexpected assistance feel natural. Let reconciliation feel natural. Let the right answer appearing at the right time feel natural. When these feelings become the ordinary atmosphere of your inner life, outer events corresponding to them will no longer appear as rare strangers. They will begin to seem like members of your own household. And when they come, you may smile, because you know where they began. Not in the letter, not in the agreement, not in the journey, not in the changed heart of another. They began in the night when you ceased waiting for proof and allowed yourself to feel the end. They began when you left the room of repetition and entered the room of possibility. They began when you stopped asking whether you were among the fortunate and assumed that divine support was natural to your being. Now allow that thought to settle softly. You do not have to chase the miraculous. You do not have to persuade heaven. You do not have to become worthy of what consciousness already contains. You need only cease occupying the state that excludes it. Rest now as one for whom life has hidden ways of bringing good. Rest as one whose path is not limited to what reason can presently see. Rest as one who may receive through doors not yet visible, through people not yet known, through circumstances not yet formed. The miracle may already be moving beneath the surface. The letter may already be finding its writer. The conversation may already be forming in another mind. The arrangement may already be taking shape. The door may already be prepared, even though you have not yet reached the corridor in which it stands. You need not see the movement to trust it. The seed does not see the morning while it rests beneath the earth, yet it yields to the life within it. So yield now to the new state. Let the old expectation of difficulty grow faint. Let the belief in endless repetition loosen its hold. Let the world be larger than yesterday's evidence. Let possibility breathe within you, and quietly accept that the miraculous has never been rare in itself. It has only appeared rare from the state you once occupied. Tonight, you occupy another. Tonight, you are learning to expect good without strain. Tonight, you are permitting the unseen to work without interference. Tonight, you are becoming inwardly familiar with the life that others may one day call miraculous. And when the evidence comes, as evidence must, you will understand that life did not suddenly become generous. You entered the state in which its generosity could finally be seen. There is a word men use when they have witnessed an effect but have failed to perceive its cause. They call it a miracle. They stand before the unexpected healing, the sudden release, the improbable meeting, the door that opened when every other door appeared closed. And because they cannot trace the event through the narrow corridors of reason, they declare that nature has been interrupted. But I tell you, nature has not been interrupted. A deeper nature has been revealed. A miracle is not the suspension of law. It is the fulfillment of a law whose beginning was concealed from the observer. It is an effect arriving from a cause that was planted in silence. The world sees the flower when it opens, but it did not watch the secret labor of the root. It sees the child when it is born, but it did not witness every hidden movement within the womb. It sees the answer when it appears, but it did not stand beside you in the invisible chamber where the answer was first accepted. Men call an event miraculous when they cannot find its origin in the visible world. Yet the visible world is never the origin. It is the field in which an invisible planting becomes visible. Consider a seed placed in the soil. At the moment it disappears beneath the earth, nothing in its outward appearance resembles the tree it may one day become. It is small, silent, easily overlooked. You could hold it between two fingers and wonder how branches, leaves, blossoms, and fruit could ever emerge from something so modest. Once it enters the ground, the eye loses sight of it. The soil closes above it. Darkness surrounds it. For a time there is no visible evidence that anything is happening. The field appears unchanged. Yet beneath the surface, the seed is not idle. It is opening. It is yielding its former shape. It is releasing a pattern hidden within itself. The shell begins to surrender. The root moves downward into a darkness it has never known. A tender shoot begins to move upward toward a light it has never seen. The seed does not possess eyes with which to locate the sun. Yet something within it knows the direction of fulfillment. No farmer kneels beside the field in despair because the tree did not appear on the morning after planting. He understands that invisibility is a stage of creation. He knows the absence of visible proof is not proof of absence. The seed is active precisely where the eye cannot follow. And when the first green shoot breaks through the soil, no one cries that the laws of nature have been violated. The event is accepted because men are familiar with the hidden process. But when an assumption is planted in consciousness, when it disappears beneath the surface of waking thought, when it begins to move people, circumstances, conversations, decisions, and events toward its fulfillment, men have no physical instrument with which to observe its gestation. They do not see the root forming. They do not see the bridge being built. They do not see the silent rearrangement taking place beyond the reach of their senses. Then the result appears, and they call it a miracle. I call it harvest. The miracle is the visible harvest of an invisible seed. Your imaginal act is the seed. The subconscious is the soil. Feeling is the living moisture that carries the seed into the depths. Persistence is the quiet protection of the field. Sleep is the darkness in which the unseen work begins. The event that later astonishes the world is the fruit that was already contained in the seed you planted. The oak does not enter the seed after the seed is placed in the earth. The pattern of the oak was present from the beginning. The branches, the roots, the shade, and the acorns were contained in possibility within that tiny form. In the same way, the fulfillment is contained within the imaginal act that truly implies the end. When you hear inwardly the words you would hear after your desire has been fulfilled, you are not creating a fragment without consequence. You are planting the whole event in concentrated form. When you feel the embrace that would follow reconciliation, the embrace contains the conversation, the changed hearts, the circumstances, and every unseen movement necessary to bring the reconciliation into expression. When you feel the relief of a matter settled, that relief contains the path by which the settlement will occur. When you imagine yourself standing where you desire to be, the scene contains the journey. When you hear congratulations, those few words contain the accomplishment. The seed does not display the whole tree to the eye, but the tree is there in pattern. Your short imaginal act does not show you the whole bridge of incidents, but the bridge is contained in the state you have accepted. This is why I ask you to choose the end rather than to concern yourself with the means. If the seed contains the tree, you need not instruct it how to form each leaf. You need not awaken it each morning and explain the duties of a root. You need not command the rain to fall in one particular manner or the sun to shine through one chosen cloud. You plant, you protect, you allow. The intelligence within the seed knows more about becoming a tree than your reasoning mind could ever tell it. The intelligence within consciousness knows more about bringing your assumption into form than your surface mind could ever devise. Reason sees only the conditions that are present. Imagination enters the condition that is desired. Reason counts the obstacles. Imagination accepts the end. Reason asks how one person can move, how a sum can arrive, how a road can open, how an answer can appear. Imagination plants the finished state and leaves the hidden arrangement to the law. This does not mean that nothing happens. Much happens, but most of it begins beyond your sight. A thought enters another mind. A person remembers your name. A letter is written. A decision is reconsidered. A journey is delayed. A seat becomes available. A conversation occurs in a room you have never entered. A circumstance that seemed unrelated begins to lean toward your fulfillment. None of these movements may appear extraordinary in isolation, yet together they form the hidden roots of the harvest. The world sees only the final event and says, "How fortunate." But the roots have been growing in darkness. Do not despise the darkness. Men fear what they cannot see. They imagine that if no outward evidence appears, nothing is taking place. Yet darkness is not emptiness. Darkness is the chamber of gestation. The child is formed in darkness. The seed breaks open in darkness. The dream unfolds in darkness. The deep mind receives its impression when the bright insistence of the senses has grown dim. Night is not the enemy of creation. Night is its sanctuary. When you enter sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you carry the seed into a region where the arguments of the day cannot disturb it so easily. The visible world withdraws. The rooms, Faces, accounts, and circumstances that appeared so commanding during the waking hours lose their sharpness. Their voices soften. Their claim upon you weakens. Then the inner act may become dominant. What seemed impossible beneath the light of reason may feel natural in the twilight of sleep. You may hear a sentence inwardly with such clarity that for a moment you forget it has not yet been spoken outwardly. You may feel a hand in imagination with such reality that the body responds. You may experience relief so deeply that sleep receives you as the person for whom the matter is already resolved. That feeling is the moisture of the seed. A dry seed may remain on the surface for a long time. It may be handled, examined, spoken about, and admired, yet never enter the process of growth. In the same way, an idea may be repeated without becoming creative when it never descends beneath intellectual discussion. You may say, I am blessed, while feeling forgotten. You may say, I am secure, while inwardly rehearsing danger. You may say, I am loved, while listening for rejection. You may speak of miracles, while feeling that miracles belong to someone else. The words are present, but the moisture is absent. Feeling carries the assumption into the fertile depth. And by feeling, I do not mean violent emotion. I do not ask you to exhaust yourself attempting to manufacture ecstasy. A seed does not need a flood. Too much strain may wash it from the soil. What is needed is the quiet moisture of naturalness. The feeling may be a sigh. It may be the soft release of the shoulders. It may be the calm thought, it is finished. It may be the gentle warmth that comes when you imagine someone saying, I am so happy for you. It may be nothing more dramatic than the absence of fear. Do not believe the creative feeling must always be intense. Often the most powerful feeling is ordinary possession. The person who already has what you desire does not remain astonished every hour. The fulfilled state eventually becomes familiar. It feels natural. It feels settled. It feels like home. That naturalness is fertile soil. Excitement may come and go, but naturalness abides. You are not trying to remain surprised by your miracle. You are learning to become the person for whom the miracle has ceased to be surprising. This is one of the deepest secrets of assumption. A state expresses itself when it becomes inwardly ordinary. What feels alien is visited. What feels natural is inhabited. A traveler may admire a beautiful house, but the owner moves through it without wonder. She knows where the chairs stand. She knows the sound of the doors. She rests there without asking permission. The house has become part of her sense of self. So must the fulfilled state become yours. Do not stand outside it, admiring the windows. Enter. Sit within it. Let its atmosphere surround you. Fall asleep there, until your consciousness no longer treats it as a distant possibility, but as a present dwelling place. The miracle begins when the end becomes your inner home. And once the seed is planted, protect the soil. The farmer does not plant in the evening and dig into the earth at dawn to ask whether the seed has begun. He knows that constant disturbance does not assist gestation. He does not demand a root as evidence. He does not accuse the soil of failure, because nothing has yet broken the surface. He trusts the law he has used. Yet many people plant an assumption at night and uproot it the next morning. They imagine fulfillment, then awaken and search the outer world anxiously. They look for a changed expression on someone's face. They examine the post for the expected letter. They count the money again. They listen for news. And if the old appearance remains, they say, nothing happened. In that judgment, they return to the state of absence. They disturb the soil, not because one doubtful thought has magical power to destroy all creation, but because they repeatedly abandon the identity in which the fulfillment is already true. Persistence is not strain, it is protection. To persist is not to shout louder at the seed. It is to refrain from planting the opposite crop. It is to return gently to the state whenever the old evidence attempts to claim your loyalty. It is to remember that the field may look empty while the root is alive. It is to understand that silence does not mean inactivity. It is to refuse to make the absence of visible proof more real than the presence of the imaginal seed. Suppose you have planted the state of reconciliation. The next day, the other person remains silent. The old state may whisper, you see, nothing has changed. But what do you truly see? You see only the surface. You do not see what is moving within the other. You do not know which memory has risen, which feeling has softened, which conversation will occur, which event will prepare the way. You are looking at bare soil and declaring that no root exists. Do not judge life from the surface alone. The visible world is the final stage of a process, not the first. Suppose you have entered the state of financial relief. In the morning, the same figures remain before you. The same obligation appears to wait. Reason says, this is the reality. But those figures are an echo of former states. They are the sound still traveling after the old voice has spoken. Change the voice, and for a time the old echo may remain in the valley. Yet it has no power to continue once the new sound becomes dominant. The echo cannot speak for itself. It repeats what has already been spoken. The shadow cannot choose its own shape. It follows the object that interrupts the light. The harvest cannot alter its kind after it appears. It reveals what was planted. These images all point to the same truth. The outer world is responsive. It is not the independent cause men imagine it to be. An echo, a shadow, and a harvest seem different, yet each is dependent upon something prior. The echo depends upon the voice. The shadow depends upon the form. The harvest depends upon the seed. Your experience depends upon the state of consciousness from which you live. If you dislike the echo, change the voice. If you dislike the shadow, change the form before the light. If you dislike the harvest, plant another seed. Do not spend your whole life quarreling with consequences. Return to the cause. Men struggle with shadows because shadows are visible. They attempt to push them, restrain them, punish them, or escape them. Yet a shadow has no substance with which to resist. It follows faithfully. So does the world. You may say, but others act independently. Circumstances have their own power. Events come without my consent. At the level of appearances, life seems filled with independent forces. I do not ask you to deny what the senses report. I ask you to look deeper into the pattern of experience. Notice how the same world seems different according to the state you occupy. When you are afraid, neutral events appear threatening. When you are secure, the same events lose their terror. When you feel rejected, silence becomes proof of abandonment. When you feel loved, silence is merely silence. Your state does more than color your interpretation. It moves you into corresponding relationships, choices, reactions, and sequences of events. It gives life a pattern. Two people may walk the same street and enter different worlds. One notices danger, refusal, and limitation. The other notices invitation, help, and possibility. Each meets reflections of the state carried within. This is why the miracle is first a change in consciousness, not a change in circumstance. The outward event is the harvest. The inward transformation is the true beginning. The moment you cease feeling yourself to be the one excluded from good, a miracle has already occurred in the only place where creation begins. The moment you accept guidance instead of confusion, favor instead of neglect, supply instead of abandonment, the seed has entered the soil. The outer world may require time to reveal the full shape of the planting, but the cause has changed. Do not measure the reality of the seed by the speed of the harvest. Some seeds rise quickly. Others form deep roots before the smallest shoot appears. A blade of grass and a great tree do not move through time in the same manner, yet both obey law. A simple imaginal act may produce an event within hours. Another may unfold through a long and intricate bridge. The interval does not tell you whether the law is operating. Clock time measures the sequence of visible events. It does not measure the vitality of an invisible state. The seed is complete in nature before the tree is complete in form. Your assumption may be complete in consciousness before your world is complete in expression. This is why I ask you to remain faithful, not to a calendar, but to the state. If you say, it must happen by this hour, through this person, in this exact manner, you may be attempting to instruct the seed to produce one branch before its roots are formed. You may be confusing impatience with faith. Faith is not urgency. Faith is rest. Faith knows the seed contains its fulfillment. Faith allows the intelligence of the law to choose the path. Faith does not sleep because it has given up. Faith sleeps because it knows the work has been entrusted to a deeper power. Tonight, you are learning to sleep in that way, not as one who collapses from exhaustion while carrying every problem into the night, not as one who begs darkness to hide the day, but as one who plants consciously and then rests. The bed becomes a field, the quiet mind becomes soil, the imaginal scene becomes seed, the feeling of fulfillment becomes water, your fidelity becomes protection, and sleep becomes the sacred darkness in which the new state begins its unseen development. Let the image become vivid within you. See a field at night. The surface is still. No wind disturbs it. No eye can see what has been placed beneath the earth. To the passerby, nothing has changed. The field looks as it did before the planting. Yet beneath the dark surface, life has received instruction. The seed has begun to answer the pattern within itself. It is not asking the world's permission. It is not comparing itself with another seed. It is not afraid because the sun is absent. It does not mistake darkness for abandonment. It uses the darkness. It opens where no one applauds. It grows where no one watches. It prepares the harvest in silence. So it is with the assumption you accept tonight. You do not need another person to witness it. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to seek agreement from those who judge only by appearances. The most sacred acts of creation often take place without an audience. A person may lie quietly in a humble room while imagining herself free, and no one knows that a new future has entered the world. A man may hear inwardly a few simple words, and those words may begin moving events across great distances. A woman may feel a burden lifted before any visible solution appears, and that relief may be the first movement of the solution itself. The world notices only when the shoot breaks the soil, but heaven, which is consciousness, knew the seed. This is the forgotten meaning of miracle. It is not that law has failed, it is that law has succeeded invisibly before succeeding visibly. It is not that an outside power has interrupted the ordinary sequence. It is that consciousness has established a new sequence whose hidden beginning escaped observation. What men call sudden may have been growing for many nights. What men call coincidence may be correspondence matured. What men call fortune may be an assumption reaching harvest. What men call impossible may be a seed whose tree they could not imagine while holding it in their hand. Do not reduce the miraculous to spectacle. The deepest miracle may be the quiet transformation by which fear no longer owns you. It may be the night you discover that you can choose your inner state before circumstances change. It may be the first moment in which you feel supported without outward proof. From that inward miracle, outward wonders proceed. A changed state alters what you see. It alters what you expect. It alters the words you speak. It alters the actions that feel natural. It alters the people to whom you are drawn and the responses they give. It alters the path your feet appear to choose without conscious calculation. The inner seed sends roots into every part of your world. You may not notice the change at first because its movement feels natural. That is the beauty of the law. The bridge rarely announces itself as supernatural. You follow an impulse. You accept an invitation. You remember a name. You turn down a different street. You speak one sentence you had not planned to speak. Later, looking backward, you see the pattern. You understand that each ordinary step carried you toward an extraordinary fulfillment. A seed becoming a tree is miraculous, if you truly consider it. Men call it ordinary, only because they have seen it often. The miracle has not diminished. Familiarity has covered it. In the same way, as you learn the law, events that once astonished you will begin to feel natural. Not because they become less beautiful, but because you understand their origin. You will still feel gratitude. You will still marvel at the perfection of timing. You will still smile when the letter arrives, when the voice softens, when the answer appears, when the door opens. But beneath the gratitude will be recognition. You will say, I know this harvest. I remember the seed. You will remember the night you felt relief before relief had a visible cause. You will remember hearing the words before another voice spoke them. You will remember resting in arrival while the journey still seemed impossible. Then you will understand that the miracle did not begin in the world. The world completed it. The miracle began in the imaginal act accepted as true, and this knowledge will free you from worshipping effects. You will no longer believe one particular person controls your happiness. You will no longer believe one institution controls your supply. You will no longer believe one visible road controls your destination. You will bless every channel, but you will know the source is deeper. If one channel closes, the source remains. If one road disappears, the destination remains contained in the state. If one person refuses the role, another may be moved to play it. The seed does not depend upon one leaf. The life of the tree is greater than any single branch. So release your insistence upon the branch. Trust the life within the seed. Tonight, plant not the method, but the fulfillment. Do not imagine yourself struggling toward the answer. Imagine the answer already received. Do not picture yourself pleading for a door to open. Feel yourself already welcomed on the other side. Do not rehearse the long path of healing a relationship. Hear the laughter that proves harmony has returned. Do not imagine counting every step toward freedom. Feel the lightness of one who is free. The end is the seed. The means are the unfolding roots and branches. And when you have planted, do not stand over the field with anxiety. Your anxiety cannot instruct the seed. It only draws you back into consciousness of absence. Rest. Allow the soil to close above the imaginal act. Allow sleep to take it from your conscious grasp. There is a moment when the gardener must remove his hand from the earth. You have placed the seed. You have given it feeling. Now let the darkness receive it. The darkness is not against you. The silence is not empty. The absence of evidence is not failure. Something may already be opening beneath the surface. An old pattern may already be losing its root. A new possibility may already be sending its first tender movement toward the light. You need not hear it. You need not see it. You need only remain faithful to the nature of what you planted. If you planted peace, do not water conflict. If you planted welcome, do not nourish rejection. If you planted abundance, do not continually rehearse abandonment. If you planted miraculous support, do not make a home in the belief that you must solve everything alone. Return gently to the chosen state. Protect it from the harsh weather of careless inner speech. Let feeling nourish it. Let sleep deepen it. Let persistence preserve it. Then allow the harvest to surprise the senses without surprising the soul. For the soul will recognize what the senses call unexpected. The soul will say, "This is the tree contained in the seed." And perhaps, as you listen now, you can feel a seed entering the soil. Not a seed of one narrow event, but a seed of identity. The identity of one whose life is fertile ground for unexpected good. The identity of one who is guided through unseen arrangements. The identity of one for whom the right answer comes, the right door opens, the right word is spoken, and the right path appears. Let that identity descend beneath thought. Do not force it. Let it sink. Let it become quieter than language and deeper than effort. Feel the soil of consciousness closing gently around it. Feel the moisture of relief surrounding it. Feel the darkness of sleep approaching, not as an end, but as the beginning of gestation. Tonight, something within you is being planted. Tomorrow may not reveal the whole tree. It need not. The seed has its own appointed unfolding. The first evidence may be a change in mood. You may awaken with less fear. You may notice a possibility you overlooked. You may feel moved to write, to speak, to wait, or to go. Do not dismiss the inner shift because it appears small. The first root is smaller than the tree, but without the root, there can be no tree. Honor the beginning. A subtle peace may be the first movement of a great deliverance. A quiet idea may be the root of a new life. A softened feeling may be the beginning of reconciliation. A moment of expectancy may be the first light above the soil. The miracle does not need to shout while it is being born. It may whisper. Listen inwardly, not for a command from outside, but for the new tone of your own being. You may hear it say, "All is not as fixed as it seemed." You may hear it say, "There are roads I cannot yet see." You may hear it say, "The answer is alive." You may hear it say, "The seed has been received." Let that be enough for tonight. The apparent miracle is the harvest. The imaginal act is the seed. Feeling is the moisture. Persistence is the protection. Sleep is the sacred darkness, and consciousness is the living soil from which your world continually grows. Plant wisely, rest deeply, trust the unseen, for what disappears into consciousness does not disappear into nothing. It enters the place where form begins. Now, as the room grows quieter, and the weight of the day begins to loosen its hold upon you, I ask you to turn your attention towards something so intimate, so constant, and so near, that you may have overlooked it all your life. Before you were called by your name, before anyone described you, praised you, judged you, welcomed you, or rejected you, there was within you a simple awareness of being. Before you said, I am this, or I am that, there was the silent certainty, I am. You may close your eyes and forget the room for a moment. You may forget your age. You may forget the duties waiting for you in the morning. You may forget the story others have told about you, and even the story you have repeated to yourself. Yet beneath all those descriptions, something remains. You still know that you exist. You are aware that you are. That awareness has no age. It is not rich or poor. It is not married or alone. It is not praised or condemned. It is not successful or defeated. It is simply present. It is the invisible foundation upon which every condition of your life has been placed. I tell you that this awareness of being is the name of God. When Moses stood before the burning bush and asked for the name of the one who spoke, the answer came, I am that I am. Tell them, I am has sent me unto you. Men have repeated these words for centuries, yet many have searched for their meaning in a distant heaven, while speaking the sacred name every day without recognition. You cannot refer to yourself without first using the name of God. You say, I am tired. I am afraid. I am forgotten. I am too old. I am unlucky. I am not enough. And you imagine that you are merely describing a condition. But you are doing more than describing. You are clothing the formless awareness of being with a garment. You are joining the creative name to a state, and whatever state is repeatedly joined to that name begins to feel natural. What feels natural to consciousness must, in time, find expression. The words I am are like an open door. Whatever follows them enters the house of your identity. The house itself is pure awareness. It is spacious enough to contain any state, but most people fill it carelessly. They allow the opinions of others to furnish it. They hang old disappointments upon its walls. They place memories of rejection in every room. They carry into it the labels given by parents, employers, companions, physicians, creditors, teachers, and strangers. Then, after living among these furnishings for many years, they forget that the house existed before the furniture. You are not the furniture. You are the house. You are not the passing state. You are the awareness capable of entering and leaving states. This is why no condition, however long it has continued, has the right to define your eternal identity. You may have occupied poverty, but you are not poverty. You may have occupied loneliness, but you are not loneliness. You may have lived for years beneath the weight of disappointment, but disappointment is not your name. It is a state you have worn so repeatedly that it has begun to feel like your skin. Yet it is only a garment. And a garment may be removed. A woman may have been a daughter, then a wife, then a mother, then a widow, and through every change she has remained aware that she is. The roles change, the circumstances change, the body changes, the names by which the world identifies her may change. Yet the silent awareness remains, untouched by every garment it has worn. A man may be called poor in one year and prosperous in another. He may be unknown at one time and honored at another. He may be employed, dismissed, welcomed, rejected, ill, restored, uncertain, and confident. The conditions pass like scenes in a play, but the awareness that says I am remains the stage upon which every scene appears. You have mistaken the scene for the stage. You have mistaken the role for the actor. You have mistaken the garment for the one who wears it. Tonight, I invite you to remember the wearer. Before you are the one who waits, you are. Before you are the one who struggles, you are. Before you are the one who needs a miracle, you are. And because you are, you possess the power to choose what you shall now be conscious of being. This choice is not made by effort alone. It is not made by shouting new words while inwardly remaining loyal to the old identity. It is made when you consent to a new state, enter it imaginatively, and remain there until it begins to feel like your natural dwelling. Every statement beginning with I am is an invitation to a state. When you say, I am forgotten, you enter a room in consciousness where attention is absent. You begin to expect that letters will not come, that others will fail to remember, that opportunities will pass unseen. You notice every silence and interpret it as proof. The world then reflects the room you occupy, and you say, I knew I was forgotten, but the world did not first declare you forgotten. The assumption became the lens through which the world was seen and the state from which experience unfolded. When you say, I am unlucky, you do not merely comment upon past events. You create a continuity between those events and the identity you carry into the future. You begin to anticipate disappointment before it arrives. You hesitate before opportunities. You distrust favorable movement. You interpret accidents against yourself and overlook the quiet assistance that does not fit the old story. Then, when another difficulty appears, you say, this always happens to me. The sentence closes the circle. I am always struggling is another garment many wear with a peculiar loyalty. They may despise the struggle, yet they speak of it as though it proves their virtue. They say life is hard, that nothing comes easily, that every blessing must be purchased with pain. And because struggle has become part of their identity, even help may be refused if it arrives too gently. Ease feels suspicious, support feels undeserved, a simple path appears too good to trust. The state defends itself by making its opposite feel unnatural. This is why the changing of identity may at first feel strange. A person who has spent decades saying, I must do everything alone, may feel almost uncomfortable imagining support. The old garment has become familiar. Even though it is heavy, the body of consciousness has shaped itself around the weight. But familiarity is not truth. A prison cell may become familiar to one who has lived there many years. He may know every stone, every shadow, every sound in the corridor. Yet his familiarity with the cell does not mean he was created for confinement. So it is with the identities you have worn. You may know every detail of the old story. You may be able to explain why you became cautious, why you expect disappointment, why you no longer trust good news. You may have evidence enough to fill a volume, but evidence of a former state does not command you to remain in it. The past explains the garment. It does not require you to keep wearing it. The name, I am, is untouched by the garment placed upon it. If you have said, I am rejected, the awareness itself has not become rejection. It has consented to experience rejection as a state. Withdraw the consent, and the state loses its source of life. Consciousness gives life by identification. What you refuse to identify with begins to fade. What you repeatedly identify with begins to appear alive. This is why I tell you there is no greater spiritual discipline than to guard what you join to the words, I am. These words are not ordinary. They are not merely grammar. They are the declaration of existence itself. You may speak many sentences in a day, but none is more intimate than the sentence that defines who you believe yourself to be. A person may say, I desire love, yet inwardly say, I am unwanted. He may say, I desire wealth, yet inwardly say, I am one who never has enough. She may say, I desire peace, yet inwardly say, I am surrounded by trouble. The desire points toward one state, while identity remains anchored in another. And identity prevails, for you do not consistently experience what you merely admire. You experience what you accept as true of yourself. To change your world, then, you must not merely desire different conditions. You must become conscious of being the person for whom those conditions are natural. If you desire love, the deeper movement is from I am unwanted to I am cherished. If you desire supply, the movement is from I am unsupported to I am provided for. If you desire guidance, the movement is from I am lost to I am led. If you desire miraculous assistance, the movement is from I am forgotten by life to I am one to whom life responds beautifully. Notice the quality of that statement. I am one to whom life responds beautifully. It does not demand one particular event. It does not force one person to behave according to your will. It does not insist upon one narrow road. It establishes a relationship between your identity and life itself. It implies that life is not deaf to you. It implies that your inner movement receives an outer answer. It implies that when you assume harmony, harmony begins to take form. It implies that your desires are not cries lost in an empty universe, but seeds received by a living law. To occupy this state is to stop standing before life as a stranger seeking permission. You begin to feel at home within existence. You expect correspondence. You expect the outer world to become a faithful echo of the inner word, not instantly according to impatience, but inevitably according to law. I am naturally guided is another garment. To wear it is not to claim that you consciously know every step. It is to know that the next step can be revealed. Guidance does not always arrive as a voice from heaven. It may be a quiet inclination. It may be a sudden certainty that one path is no longer yours. It may be a sentence heard in conversation that answers a question you had not spoken aloud. It may be a delay that keeps you from an unsuitable arrangement. It may be an impulse to write a letter. It may be a desire to visit a place. It may be a deep peace concerning a decision that reason alone could not settle. The one who says, I am lost, may receive guidance and fail to recognize it because confusion is the state he expects. The one who says, I am naturally guided, becomes more receptive to the movements that belong to guidance. He does not anxiously demand the entire road. He trusts the lamp that illuminates the next few steps. A traveler at night does not need the whole landscape revealed at once. A small light carried faithfully may take him across a great distance. So it is with you. You need not know tonight how every desire will be fulfilled. You need only assume that you are guided. The bridge will reveal itself in movement. The next incident will appear when it is needed. I am always met by unexpected good is a state of receptivity. Many expect the unexpected only when they fear it. They lie awake imagining sudden trouble, unwelcome news, unforeseen expenses, abrupt rejection, or the return of old pain. They believe themselves practical because they prepare inwardly for disaster, yet they rarely prepare for unexpected good. They seldom imagine a letter bringing relief, a change of plan working in their favor, a forgotten obligation being resolved, a person offering assistance without being asked, or an answer arriving from a direction they had not considered. They are open to surprise only when surprise wears the face of fear. To say, I am always met by unexpected good, is to turn receptivity toward blessing. It does not mean that every event will appear pleasant at its beginning. The first step of the bridge may look like an inconvenience. A plan may change. A familiar door may close. But the one who occupies the state of unexpected good does not immediately condemn the movement. She pauses. She remembers that the whole pattern has not yet been shown. She allows the event to reveal its place in the bridge. What appears as interruption may become protection. What appears as loss may remove an obstacle. What appears as delay may arrange the perfect meeting. The state does not require you to call pain pleasant. It asks you not to declare the unfinished scene a final judgment. I am surrounded by evidence of divine arrangement. Deepens this still further. Divine arrangement is not a distant being moving pieces upon a board while you remain helpless. It is the intelligence of consciousness expressing the state you have accepted. It is the lawful weaving together of people, places, thoughts, decisions, and timing into a pattern that reflects the imaginal end. To feel surrounded by divine arrangement is to sense that your life is not a collection of disconnected accidents. It is to recognize that invisible threads may unite events whose relationship you cannot yet see. A person misses a carriage and meets someone while waiting for the next. A letter is delivered to the wrong room and finds the very person who carries the answer. A conversation overheard in passing awakens an idea. A journey undertaken for one purpose becomes the beginning of something greater. A refusal redirects a person toward an acceptance more fitting than the one originally desired. Reason sees fragments. Imagination establishes the end. Divine arrangement joins the fragments into fulfillment. When you say, I am surrounded by evidence of divine arrangement, you begin to observe life differently. You do not become superstitious, searching anxiously for a secret meaning in every falling leaf. You become quietly attentive. You recognize that ordinary events may serve extraordinary ends. You no longer demand that the bridge resemble your plan. You allow the bridge to reveal the wisdom of the state that formed it. Then comes the phrase at the heart of this night: I am magnetic to miracles. Do not make of this a magical incantation. The words have no independent power when repeated from desperation. Their power lies in the state they invite you to occupy. To be magnetic to miracles means that your conception of self is no longer hostile to unexpected good. It means you do not feel separated from the source of favorable movement. It means wonder has become compatible with your identity. It means you have ceased saying, these things happen to others, but not to me. It means your inner world no longer pushes away the very experiences your conscious mind says it desires. A magnet does not struggle to attract. Its attraction is the consequence of its nature. In the same way, the miraculous becomes a consequence of the nature you assume. You do not chase the open door. You become the one for whom doors open. You do not chase assistance. You become the one who is supported. You do not chase favorable timing. You become the one whose path unfolds in order. You do not chase signs of blessing. You become conscious of being blessed, and signs follow as shadows follow form. This is the proper meaning of spiritual magnetism. It is not the manipulation of people. It is not the use of imagination to force another against his nature. It is the transformation of your own state so completely that the world must present corresponding forms. The magnetism is identity. The miracle is correspondence. The law is consciousness. Before this understanding settles too deeply, the old mind may object. It may say, how can I call myself guided when I do not know what to do? How can I say life responds beautifully when I have known so much disappointment? How can I say I am magnetic to miracles when I see no evidence? I would answer that you have always used I am in advance of evidence. The fearful person says, I am in danger, before danger has fully arrived. The rejected person says, I am unwanted, before another has spoken. The anxious person says, I am going to fail, while the event remains unfinished. Men have no difficulty assuming the undesirable before it becomes fact. They call it caution, intuition, or realism. Yet when asked to assume the desirable before it appears, they call it fantasy. The mechanism is the same. The direction is different. You have already proven your capacity to live from unseen assumptions. Every worry is an imaginal act accepted before its fulfillment. Every fearful anticipation is faith turned toward an unwanted end. I do not ask you to acquire a new faculty. I ask you to direct the faculty you have always used. If you can imagine rejection before it occurs, you can imagine welcome. If you can feel fear concerning tomorrow, you can feel relief concerning tomorrow. If you can hear inwardly the voice of criticism, you can hear the voice of congratulation. If you can occupy the identity of the forgotten one without evidence, you can occupy the identity of the favored one before evidence. The name I am does not refuse the nobler garment. You are the one who has refused to wear it. Perhaps you feared disappointment. Perhaps you believed it safer to expect little. Perhaps life taught you that hope was dangerous. But expecting pain does not protect you from pain. It causes you to live in pain before any event occurs. You suffer the unwanted future in imagination, and then call that suffering preparation. Tonight, you may put down that preparation. You are not required to expect disaster in order to survive life. You may expect guidance. You may expect support. You may expect that the unseen contains possibilities greater than the evidence before you. You may allow the words I am to carry a blessing rather than a burden. But do not hurry over them. The state is not entered by speed. Say inwardly, I am one to whom life responds beautifully. And then listen. Notice whether some part of you argues. Do not fight the argument. Simply recognize it as the voice of an old garment. It may say, Life has not responded beautifully before. You may answer gently, that was the reflection of the state I occupied then. I am choosing another state now. Say inwardly, I am naturally guided. The old voice may ask, then why do you feel uncertain? You may answer, guidance does not require me to see the whole road. It requires me to trust that the next step will appear. Say inwardly, I am always met by unexpected good. The old voice may point toward past disappointment. You may answer, the past is evidence of former expectation. It is not a command upon my future. Say inwardly, I am surrounded by evidence of divine arrangement. The old voice may say, I see no arrangement. You may answer, roots are arrangement before branches become visible. Say inwardly, I am magnetic to miracles. The old voice may say, that is too great a claim. You may answer, the miracle is only law becoming visible. These responses are not arguments meant to overpower the mind. They are reminders. They return you to the deeper truth that you are the chooser of states. You need not believe every phrase perfectly tonight. You need only become willing to try on the garment. A person in a tailor's room may place a new coat upon her shoulders before she decides it is hers. She feels its weight. She sees how she stands in it. She becomes familiar with its texture. So try on the state of being guided. Try on the state of being favored. Try on the state of being met by unexpected good. Feel how your body responds when you no longer expect life to oppose you. Perhaps the breath softens. Perhaps the brow becomes smooth. Perhaps you feel a little more space within the chest. Perhaps there is only a faint thought. What if this could be true? That faint thought is enough to open the door. Do not despise the beginning, because it is quiet. The sun does not burst into the sky at midnight. First there is a subtle light at the horizon. The shapes of things begin to return. What was hidden becomes gradually visible. A new identity may dawn in the same way. At first, I am magnetic to miracles, may feel like words spoken in a foreign land. Then, after repeated inward visits, it becomes familiar. You begin to notice small correspondences. A needed answer appears. A conversation turns unexpectedly in your favor. A difficulty resolves more easily than expected. The phrase then feels less distant. You return to it again. Not because the outer event has become your source, but because the event helps you recognize the state you are learning to inhabit. Eventually, the state no longer requires constant repetition. It becomes an atmosphere. You carry a quiet expectation of good beneath the ordinary thoughts of the day. You do not need to declare your magnetism loudly. You move from it. A person who feels guided does not announce guidance every hour. He simply follows the path that appears. A person who feels supported does not continually ask whether support exists. She receives it naturally. A person who feels favored does not tremble before every door. She approaches with quiet dignity. The phrase becomes flesh by becoming character. Character becomes destiny because character is the habitual state from which a person thinks, feels, acts, and expects. This is why I do not wish you merely to repeat words tonight. I want you to understand what you are joining to the name of God. I am is the creative center. The phrase that follows is the direction given to consciousness. If you say, I am one to whom life responds beautifully, feel the relationship implied. You are not at war with life. You are in correspondence with it. If you say, I am naturally guided, feel the ease of not needing to solve every future hour before sleeping. If you say, I am always met by unexpected good, allow a gentle expectancy to replace the habit of bracing for trouble. If you say, I am surrounded by evidence of divine arrangement, feel that even unseen movements may be serving your fulfilled end. If you say, I am magnetic to miracles, feel yourself cease chasing and begin receiving. These are not 5 separate states. They are different windows opening into one house. The house is the identity of one who lives in conscious relationship with the creative law. Such a person is not free from every temporary challenge, but he no longer accepts challenge as proof of abandonment. She is not required to understand every event immediately, but she does not surrender her inner state to the first appearance. The miraculous life is not necessarily a life without movement, change, or uncertainty. It is a life in which uncertainty no longer means absence of guidance. It is a life in which a closed door does not mean the end of possibility. It is a life in which the invisible is granted reality before the visible confirms it. It is a life in which I am is guarded as sacred ground. Imagine for a moment that every phrase you have ever joined to I am has become a thread in a great garment. Some threads are bright, others are heavy with fear. Some were placed there by you, others were handed to you so early that you accepted them without examination. Perhaps someone told you that you were difficult. Perhaps another called you weak. Perhaps poverty was spoken over the household until scarcity became part of your family identity. Perhaps you were taught that good fortune was for the few, that life was a burden, that age closed doors, that love faded, or that your desires were unreasonable. Each statement became a thread only because consciousness accepted it. Tonight, you may begin drawing those threads out, not by revisiting every wound, not by accusing those who gave you the garment. They too spoke from states they did not understand. You free yourself not by condemning the past, but by refusing to wear its conclusion. You may say, that was spoken of me, but it is not my eternal name. You may say, that was experienced, but it is not what I now consent to be. You may say, I was called unlucky, but awareness itself has no luck until it assumes a state. You may say, I lived in struggle, but struggle was a room, not the whole house. Then choose the new thread. Life responds beautifully to me. I am guided. Unexpected good meets me. Divine arrangement surrounds me. I am magnetic to miracles. Do not repeat them hurriedly. Let each one touch the silence. Let each one suggest an atmosphere. Let them move from language into feeling. The purpose of the phrase is fulfilled when you no longer hear it merely as a sentence, but experience it as identity. And identity is felt before it is seen. You know who you are inwardly, even when no one is present to confirm it. The poor man feels poor before he opens his purse. The loved woman feels loved before the beloved enters the room. The honored man carries honor before he hears applause. State precedes confirmation. So tonight, confirmation is not required. The room may remain quiet. The post may not yet have arrived. The telephone may not yet have rung. The account may not yet have changed. The face of another may not yet have softened. Still, within you the sacred name may take a new garment. I am. Pause inwardly at those words. Do not add anything for a moment. Simply feel that you are. There is something powerful in the bare awareness. I am. Before the old story, I am. Before the present concern, I am. Before the answer appears, I am. The awareness is not damaged by the problem it observes. It is not diminished by the role it has played. It remains free to choose. Now, from that pure sense of being, gently add the new state. I am one to whom life responds beautifully. Do not strain to see how. The statement concerns identity, not method. I am naturally guided. You need not know the next year. The next step is enough. I am always met by unexpected good. You do not need to specify its costume. Let good choose its form. I am surrounded by evidence of divine arrangement. Even now, unseen movements may be joining themselves to your fulfilled end. I am magnetic to miracles. You are not chasing the harvest. You are assuming the nature from which the harvest grows. Let these meanings settle into you. The night does not ask for performance. You need not speak perfectly. You need not produce a dramatic feeling. A quiet consent is sufficient. You may simply say, yes, this is the garment I choose. Then allow sleep to receive you while you wear it. For the state in which you fall asleep is not merely a thought you wear it. For the state had before the night. It is an identity carried into the deep. The body rests, but consciousness continues to nourish the impression. You may not remember these words in the morning, yet the feeling may remain. You may awaken with a subtle difference, a new quietness, a strange refusal to return completely to the old story. Honor that change. It is the new garment beginning to fit. Do not tear it off because the world has not yet recognized it. The world often continues addressing you according to the role you played yesterday. Let it speak. You are not required to answer to the old name. If circumstances say, you are forgotten, remember, I am one to whom life responds beautifully. If confusion says, you have no path, remember, I am naturally guided. If fear says, something unexpected will go wrong, remember, I am always met by unexpected good. If appearances say, nothing is moving, remember, I am surrounded by evidence of divine arrangement. If reason says, miracles belong to others, remember, I am magnetic to miracles, not as a battle cry, not as a denial shouted against the world. As a quiet return to identity. The king does not need to argue with every stranger about his crown. He knows the state he occupies. You are learning that same inward authority. The power of I am is not loudness, it is certainty. It is the silent, steady consciousness of being. Tonight, let that consciousness be clothed in grace rather than fear, in guidance rather than confusion, in expectancy rather than dread. You have worn many garments, you have played many parts, but beneath them all, the divine name has remained untouched. I am. It has waited patiently while you called yourself weak. It did not become weak. It gave expression to the state of weakness because you joined that state to its creative power. It waited while you called yourself unlucky. It did not become unlucky. It faithfully expressed the identity assumed. Now you may use the same power consciously. The law does not condemn you for former garments. It simply invites a new choice. There is no punishment in leaving the old state. There is no loyalty required to suffering. There is no virtue in continuing to call yourself by a name that wounds you. Choose the name that agrees with the life you desire to express. And know that whatever you sincerely join to I am, whatever you accept and allow to become natural, must seek embodiment. The world is the garment of consciousness. Your circumstances are the visible clothing of invisible identity. Change the identity, and in its appointed way, the clothing changes. Rest then in the sacred simplicity of being. You are. And because you are, you may choose. You may choose to be guided. You may choose to be supported. You may choose to be receptive to unexpected good. You may choose to live as one surrounded by divine arrangement. You may choose to become inwardly magnetic to miracles. Let no former label speak with greater authority than the divine name within you. The label was added. The awareness came first. Return to what came first. Return to I am. And from that pure awareness, let the new life begin. As you rest here now, you may still be aware of the same room in which you lay down. The walls have not moved. The furniture remains where it stood. The obligations you remembered before closing your eyes may still appear to be waiting for you. A certain letter may not yet have arrived. A certain voice may still be silent. The body may still carry a discomfort you hoped would have passed. The figures written upon a page may still seem to tell the same story they told yesterday. And because these appearances remain, the mind may whisper, nothing has changed. But I ask you not to accept that judgment too quickly. The fact that the reflection has not yet changed does not mean the face before the mirror is the same. The fact that an echo continues through the valley does not mean the old voice is still speaking. The fact that the light of a vanished star may still be traveling toward the earth does not mean the star remains where it once appeared. There is often an interval between the change of cause and the visible alteration of effect. This interval is where faith is born. It is easy to believe in a state after the world confirms it. It is easy to feel wealthy when abundance is already counted, to feel loved when affection is already expressed, to feel secure when every circumstance agrees. But such feeling is not creative faith, it is merely reaction. The world speaks, and the person repeats what the world has said. I am asking you to reverse that order. I am asking you to speak inwardly first, and allow the world to become the echo. The world you presently see is not an independent authority issuing commands about your future. It is the visible residue of states formerly occupied. It is yesterday's consciousness clothed in today's appearances. It may be vivid, it may be persuasive, it may seem more real than the quiet assumption you have chosen tonight. But vividness is not permanence. A shadow may appear dark and sharply defined. yet it possesses no power of its own. It cannot decide to remain after the object that cast it has moved. It may stretch across the ground for a time, as the light changes, but it must follow the source upon which it depends. Your circumstances are like that shadow. They are not imaginary in the sense of being unreal to your present senses. You may touch them, measure them, hear them, and feel their immediate effect. I do not tell you to deny that the room is as it is, or that an obligation presently exists, or that a conversation has not yet occurred. I tell you not to crown these appearances as sovereign. A present fact is not a final decree. It is a record. It is a receipt issued by a former state. It tells you what was once believed, feared, expected, or accepted. It does not tell you what must be believed now. Suppose you enter a chamber after someone has spoken loudly within it. The speaker has already left, yet the sound lingers. You hear the last vibration fading from the walls. Would you say the speaker must still be present because the echo remains? No. You understand that sound can continue briefly after its cause has ceased. So it is with the conditions of life. You may have ceased to identify with abandonment, yet the silence of another may remain for a little while. You may have entered the state of supply, yet the visible account may still bear yesterday's figures. You may have assumed harmony, yet the atmosphere of an old disagreement may not vanish in the same instant. You may have accepted guidance, yet the next step may still be hidden from the senses. Do not confuse the lingering echo with the continuing voice. The voice has changed when the state has changed, and once the voice changes, the echo must eventually answer. Most people do not understand this interval. They change inwardly for a moment, and then turn immediately toward the world to ask whether the change has been accepted. They look for a sign. They listen for a sound. They examine faces, letters, doors, accounts, and circumstances as though the reflection must move before they can trust the face has altered. Then, seeing the old image, they return to the old expression. They say, "I knew it was not true." And the mirror, ever faithful, reflects the face they have resumed. No one with understanding stands before a mirror and pleads with the glass. No one says, "Please smile at me, and then I shall smile." The glass is innocent. It has no choice but to reveal what stands before it. If the face is sorrowful, the reflection will be sorrowful. If the face softens, the reflection must soften. The mirror does not initiate, it responds. The outer world is such a mirror. You have spent years asking the mirror to change first. You have said, "Let others treat me with kindness, and then I shall feel worthy. Let money come, and then I shall feel secure. Let the path open, and then I shall believe I am guided. Let my body show ease, and then I shall permit myself peace. Let life prove that I am blessed, and then I shall accept blessing." But the mirror waits upon the face. The change begins in the unseen expression of self. This does not mean that you must walk through the day pretending not to notice what is present. It means you give the present appearance its proper place. You regard it as evidence of a state already lived, not as a prophecy of the state now chosen. There is a great difference between observing a fact and surrendering identity to it. You may observe that a debt is unpaid without saying, "I am permanently burdened." You may observe that another has not written without saying, "I am forgotten." You may observe discomfort without declaring, "This is my unchangeable nature." You may acknowledge uncertainty without becoming the identity of one who is lost. The fact may be before you. The state remains your choice, and it is the state, not the isolated fact, that carries the creative direction of your life. Imagine a man traveling by rail. He looks through the window and sees a landscape moving past him. For a time, the fields outside still belong to the region he has chosen to leave. The familiar trees, roads, and houses remain visible, though the train has already changed direction and is carrying him elsewhere. Would he leap from the carriage because the old countryside had not disappeared immediately? Would he say, "I must still be going backward, for I can still see what I intended to leave"? No. He understands that movement has begun before the destination becomes visible. Your assumption is such a movement. The moment you truly enter a new state, you have boarded another train of consciousness. The scenery may continue for a while. Old incidents may pass the window. Familiar fears may appear. People may still address you according to the identity they knew. But you need not descend and make your home beside every passing image. Remain on the journey. Let the old landscape move behind you. You are not required to stop the train each time something familiar appears. This is one reason sleep is so merciful. While the body rests, you may withdraw attention from the passing scenery. You do not need to solve every appearance before entering the new state. You may close your eyes to the unfinished world and dwell in the destination. The senses call this imagination. I call it spiritual movement. You may lie in one room and awaken inwardly in another country. You may possess little in the visible world and yet sleep in the feeling of abundance. You may hear no outward voice and yet enter sleep with the sound of reconciliation in your heart. You may be uncertain of tomorrow's road and still rest as one who has safely arrived. The senses report location. Consciousness chooses destination, and the world must rearrange itself to join the place in which consciousness dwells. Do not be alarmed when the old state appears after you have chosen the new. The old state may return as a memory, a mood, a conversation, or a circumstance. It may knock upon the door of attention because it has been welcomed there many times before. Habit knows the road to your house, but you are not obliged to invite it inside. You may hear the knock and remain still. You may say inwardly, I know this visitor. It belongs to the life I have left. You need not wrestle with it. You need not explain why it should go. You need not become afraid that its arrival has destroyed your work. A shadow of the old state is not the state itself, unless you once again identify with it. A memory is not a command. A feeling is not a master. An appearance is not a prophecy. You are the one who grants meaning. Suppose the morning brings a letter that seems unfavorable. The old self may immediately say, there is the proof. Nothing has changed. But a letter is one incident, not the entire bridge. You do not yet know what answer it will provoke, what decision it will awaken, what new road it will force you to discover. The first page of a story does not reveal the conclusion. Do not close the book, because one sentence displeases you. Suppose a person remains silent when you had hoped for speech. Silence may appear to confirm distance, yet silence can hide reflection, regret, preparation, or a movement not yet formed into words. You do not know what is occurring beyond the reach of your senses. Your task is not to interpret every pause. Your task is to remain faithful to the state of harmony. Suppose an expected opportunity disappears. You may feel the old fear rise and say, the door has closed. Perhaps it has, but a closed door is not the same as a closed destiny. The fulfilled state is not dependent upon one entrance. A house may have many doors. A city may be reached by many roads. The law is not impoverished because one means is removed. Do not mistake a channel for the source. If the state remains, another channel must appear. The outer world is often most misleading when it is between forms. One arrangement is dissolving, but the new arrangement has not yet become visible. In that interval, a person may imagine that everything is being taken away. He sees only empty space where the former structure stood. But empty space is not failure, it is room. A field must sometimes be cleared before another crop is planted. A vessel must be emptied before it can receive new wine. A room may look bare, while the former furniture has been removed and the new has not yet arrived. Do not fear the interval. The interval is not abandonment, it is transition, and transition is often silent. A sculptor strikes the stone, and for a time the block appears only damaged. Pieces fall away. The observer sees loss. The sculptor sees the form being released. He does not mourn every fragment that leaves, for he knows the shape that remains hidden within the stone. The law may remove what cannot accompany your new state. A habit may lose its attraction. An association may fade. A plan may fail to hold your interest. A position once desired may begin to feel too small. You may call this confusion because the new identity has not yet fully expressed itself. But it may be the chisel at work. Let the unnecessary fall. You are not losing your life. You are releasing a form that belonged to another state. The outer world always appears final. to the one who does not understand consciousness. It presents itself with the authority of stone. Men point to conditions and say, "This is how things are." They confuse solidity with permanence. But stone itself was once liquid fire. The rigid appearance hides a history of movement. Everything visible is movement slowed into form. Your circumstances are no exception. They appear stable because the assumptions supporting them have been repeated. Withdraw those assumptions, and the appearance begins to lose its foundation. You may not see the loosening at once. A great tree does not fall the moment the first root decays. It may stand through many seasons, giving the appearance of strength. Yet once its root no longer supports it, the final fall is inevitable. The old state may continue to stand for a while. Do not feed its roots. Do not water it with fear. Do not strengthen it by telling its story to yourself again and again. Let it stand if it must. Without your continuing identification, it is already passing. This is the discipline of seeing beyond appearance. It is not blindness. It is deeper sight. The eye of flesh sees the remaining tree. The eye of imagination knows the root has changed. The eye of flesh sees the old reflection. The eye of imagination knows the face is new. The eye of flesh hears the fading echo. The eye of imagination knows another voice has already spoken. The eye of flesh sees the same room. The eye of imagination occupies another life. You may ask, how long must I ignore the old reflection? I would not ask you to ignore it through strain. I would ask you to understand it so completely that it no longer commands you. When you know a letter is merely ink upon paper, it may inform you without defining you. When you know an account is a record of past movement, it may be handled without becoming your identity. When you know silence is an appearance, it may be observed without becoming abandonment. Understanding frees attention. You do not need to deny the rain to know the sun still exists. You may open an umbrella and continue your journey. In the same way, you may take whatever reasonable action the present moment requires, while remaining inwardly loyal to another state. You may answer the letter. You may arrange the payment. You may seek wise counsel. You may rest the body and care for it. You may speak honestly. You may do all this without worshipping the condition as final. Action and assumption need not oppose each other. The question is not whether you act. The question is who acts. Does the frightened self act, convinced that disaster is approaching? Or does the guided self act, knowing that every necessary step may become part of the bridge? The same outward action may carry a different inner cause. One person writes a letter from desperation, fearing silence. Another writes from calm conviction, knowing communication is natural. One person seeks work as a rejected beggar, asking to be chosen. Another seeks it as one who knows his abilities are valuable and properly placed. One person cares for the body from terror. Another cares for it from respect and an assumption of restoration. The action may appear similar. The state is different, and the state gives direction to the outcome. There is an image I would have you carry tonight. Imagine a bell that has been struck. The hand that struck it is withdrawn, yet the metal continues to vibrate. The sound fills the air and slowly fades. Your current circumstances are like that sound. They are the vibration of assumptions, formerly struck into consciousness. Now imagine that another bell has sounded, deeper and clearer. At first, the old tone may still be heard beneath it. The two vibrations may mingle. But as the new bell continues, its tone becomes dominant. The old sound fades into silence. Do not stop sounding the new note, because the former note remains for a moment. The new note is your chosen state. I am guided. I am supported. I am loved. I am at peace. I am one to whom life responds beautifully. I am magnetic to miracles. These are not weapons used against appearance. They are tones of identity. Let them sound quietly within you. Do not shout them at the old world. A clear bell does not argue with an echo. It simply sounds. The valley will answer. There may be moments when the old world seems louder. An unexpected demand may arrive. A familiar pain may return. A person may speak from the old relationship. Do not take these moments as evidence that the new state is false. They may be the last vibrations of the former bell. A storm often stirs the dust most violently just before the air becomes clear. A departing tide may pull strongly before releasing the shore. An old habit may speak with urgency when it senses attention withdrawing. Let it speak. You do not have to obey. You do not have to make a religion of every passing mood. You are not judged by the arrival of a thought. You are shaped by the state to which you return. Return gently. This gentleness is important. Many become afraid of their own minds after discovering the power of assumption. They begin to examine every thought as though one passing fear could destroy their future. They become tense, watchful, and exhausted. Such fear is itself another state. I do not teach you to become a prisoner guarding every doorway of thought. I teach you to know your home. A traveler may wander briefly and still know where he belongs. A cloud may pass before the sun without extinguishing it. A wrong note may sound without ending the song. Return to the chosen state without self-condemnation. If you notice fear, say, "This is an old echo." If you notice despair, say, "This is a shadow from a former form." If you notice the impulse to judge by appearance, say, "The mirror is still reflecting yesterday." Then soften. Breathe, re-enter the end. You need not rebuild the whole imaginal scene. A single remembered feeling may be enough. The warmth of welcome, the relief of completion, the quiet certainty of being guided, the sensation that life is working with you rather than against you. A state may be entered through one feeling, as a great house may be entered through one door. Choose the door that opens easily tonight. Perhaps relief is your door. Perhaps gratitude. Perhaps security. Perhaps the simple thought, "This is no longer my final story." Enter there. Remain there as sleep approaches. The outer world will attempt to persuade you that it is the only reality because it is visible. Yet visibility is merely the last stage of creation. The fruit is visible. The root is hidden. The building is visible. The plan was hidden. The spoken word is audible. The thought that formed it was silent. Do not grant greater reality to the last stage simply because your senses can perceive it. The invisible came first. Consciousness came first. The state came first. The world is its clothing, and clothing can change. You may still awaken tomorrow in the same room. Do not be discouraged. A new life does not always begin with new walls. It may begin with a new consciousness within the old walls. The room may be the same, yet you are no longer the same inhabitant. The responsibilities may remain, yet you carry them from another state. The letter may still be absent, yet you no longer interpret absence as rejection. The account may still show yesterday's figures, yet you no longer bow before them as destiny. The body may still ask for patience and care, yet you no longer identify yourself solely with discomfort. The silence may continue, yet within you, harmony has already been accepted. This inward change is not small. It is the change of cause. All outward alterations are secondary to it. The man who changes houses without changing consciousness will recreate the old atmosphere in a new place. The woman who changes consciousness may remain in the same house and watch the entire meaning of that house transform. Do not measure change only by objects. Measure it by identity. Can you look upon an old condition without becoming the old self? Can you see the remnant without calling it the future? Can you hear the echo without repeating the voice that produced it? Can you stand before the mirror and remain faithful to the new face? This is mastery. Not the absence of appearances, but freedom from their authority. The world is a faithful servant, though men call it a tyrant. It has served every state you have occupied. When you expected neglect, it gave form to neglect. When you feared conflict, it arranged scenes of conflict. When you felt unworthy, it presented witnesses to unworthiness. Do not hate the servant for obeying yesterday's command. Give a new command, not with anger, not with desperate repetition, with identity. The servant requires time to rearrange the household. Furniture must be moved. Rooms must be prepared. Old notices must be taken down. New invitations must be written. But once the master of the house has changed the instruction, the work has begun. You need not stand in every room supervising. Rest. Allow the rearrangement. There is wisdom in not interfering with every detail. The conscious mind believes it must see the whole bridge before taking comfort. It says, "Show me who will help. Show me where the money will come from. Show me what words will be spoken. Show me how the body will respond. Show me the hour and the means." But the deeper law does not require your map, it requires your destination. The river does not consult the traveler before finding the sea. It bends around stone, passes through valley, narrows, widens, disappears beneath shadow, and still reaches its end. Your assumption is the sea toward which events begin to flow. Do not demand that the river run in a straight line. A bend is not a denial. A pause is not an abandonment. A narrow passage is not the end of the journey. Trust the direction established by the state. Some of the most beautiful arrangements appear first as contradiction. A person desires a more fitting position and loses the one he has. A woman desires freedom and finds an old relationship ending. A family desires a better home and is forced to leave the familiar place sooner than expected. At the beginning, these events may look like evidence against the assumption. Later, they are seen as necessary movements upon the bridge. I do not tell you to rejoice blindly in pain. I tell you not to assign final meaning too soon. Let the story unfold. The seed knows the tree. The state knows the fulfillment. The bridge knows the destination. You may not know the purpose of every stone beneath your feet while crossing, but when you reach the other side, you may look back and see that even the rough places carried you forward. This is why reassurance is necessary tonight. You are not failing because the world has not changed at once. You are not forgotten because the answer is invisible. You are not powerless because the reflection still resembles yesterday. You are not doing harm because an old thought passed through the mind. You are learning to distinguish cause from effect. That learning brings peace. The outer world can be handled without fear. When you no longer mistake it for God, the figures can be read, the letter can be answered, the body can be cared for, the conversation can be faced, the responsibilities can be met, but none of them need become the name you attach to I am. You may say, this is present, but it is not permanent. This is visible, but it is not sovereign. This is the echo, not the voice. This is the reflection, not the face. This is the remnant of a state I no longer choose. Then turn inward, not to escape life, but to return to the cause of life. See the face you wish the mirror to reflect. Hear the voice you wish the valley to echo. Occupy the state you wish the world to clothe. And let the visible follow in its proper order. As you grow drowsier, allow the old appearances to lose their sharp edges. The room may blur into darkness. The responsibilities may move farther away. The unanswered questions need not follow you across the threshold of sleep. Leave them outside for a little while. They are effects. Tonight, you attend to cause. Feel the quiet face before the mirror. It is peaceful. It is guided. It is no longer asking the reflection for permission to change. Feel the new voice sounding across the valley. It says, life responds beautifully to me. The old echo may still fade in the distance, but the new note has been struck. Feel the train moving beneath you. The old landscape may remain visible for a moment, but you are no longer dwelling there. Feel the tide turning. The water has not yet reached the new shore, but the direction has changed. Feel the seed beneath the earth. The field looks still, but life is moving. All these images are one truth. The unseen may change before the seen. The cause may change before the effect. The state may change before the circumstance. And when the state changes, the circumstance has received its new instruction. Rest in that knowledge. You do not have to force the mirror. You do not have to silence the echo. You do not have to push the train. You do not have to pull the tide. You do not have to break open the seed. The law performs its own work. Your part is to remain faithful to the new identity. So even if tomorrow offers remnants of yesterday, do not call them tomorrow's prophecy. See them for what they are. Fading impressions. Old ink drying upon a page that is already being turned. Footprints upon a road you have ceased to walk. A distant bell whose sound is passing into silence. You are not bound to the remnant. You are the one who has changed the cause. Let that become your reassurance tonight. The old world does not need to disappear before you sleep in the new one. Sleep in the new one first. The disappearance of the old will follow. Sleep as one who is supported before support becomes visible. Sleep as one who is loved before the voice is heard. Sleep as one who is free before the door appears open. Sleep as one who is guided before the map is placed in your hand. Sleep as one to whom miracles are natural before the world offers its evidence. For the evidence is coming from the state. The mirror is preparing its answer. The valley is carrying the new sound. The tide has turned. And what you see tonight as the remnants of an old life are not the walls of your future. They are yesterday's echo, growing fainter as a new voice begins to fill the world. An assumption is not a wish floating upon the surface of the mind. It is not a sentence repeated while the heart remains convinced of the opposite. It is not a hopeful glance toward some distant future. An assumption is an inward acceptance. It is the quiet decision to occupy a state before the world has furnished evidence that the state is true. This is the law of assumption. What you accept as true of yourself, and continue to inhabit until it feels natural, must eventually take form in your experience. The assumption may appear false at the moment you first enter it. The senses may contradict it. Reason may protest. The world may present 100 witnesses against it. Yet if you remain faithful to the state, the assumption hardens into fact. The phrase hardens into fact is important. A state does not always appear outwardly the instant it is chosen. At first it may be soft, invisible, and known only to you. It may feel like a private secret held beneath the noise of appearances. But as you return to it, as you think from it, sleep in it, and allow it to become familiar, it begins to acquire weight. It gathers form. It clothes itself in circumstances. What was once only inward conviction becomes a conversation, a letter, an opportunity, an altered relationship, a restored condition, or an event that seems to arrive from beyond the reach of ordinary planning. The world then calls the event extraordinary. But the event is only the assumption made solid. A sculptor first beholds the figure inwardly, before removing the stone that conceals it. To another man, the block is merely stone. To the sculptor, the completed form is already present. Every movement of his hand proceeds from what he has accepted as finished within. He does not strike the stone at random, hoping that beauty may accidentally appear. He works from the end he has already seen. So must you live from the end you have accepted. The common mistake is to assume that a miracle will happen someday. A person says, "I believe something wonderful is coming." The words may sound hopeful, but the state is still one of waiting. The miracle remains on the road. It is always approaching, never arriving. The person looks toward tomorrow and feels the distance between herself and the desired good. She has changed the language of despair, perhaps, but she has not yet entered possession. There is a great difference between saying, "A miracle will come to me," and feeling, "My life is naturally miraculous." The first statement places the miracle outside you and beyond the present moment. The second establishes a new identity. The first watches the horizon. The second lives in the land. The first hopes to be visited. The second has made the miraculous its home. This distinction is subtle enough to escape the careless mind, yet it determines everything. One may spend years hoping for good and never cease being the person who waits. Hope can be beautiful, but if it remains forever directed toward the future, it may become a refined form of absence. Possession is different. Possession does not require that you physically hold the completed result this instant. It requires that inwardly you cease treating the result as foreign to your identity. You begin to feel that harmony belongs in your life, that health belongs in your life, that right timing belongs in your life, that unexpected good is not an intruder, but a familiar guest. You stop saying, "Perhaps one day life will favor me." You begin to feel, "Life has always contained favor, and I am now available to recognize and receive it." The miracle is no longer an exception you are attempting to attract. It becomes an expression of the person you have assumed yourself to be. Imagine two people waking in the same city. They hear the same bells in the distance. The same streets lie before them. The same weather covers the rooftops. Both must travel through the morning, meet responsibilities, speak with others, and face events they cannot fully control. Outwardly, their worlds appear nearly identical, but inwardly they live in different countries. The first man awakens expecting resistance. Before his feet touch the floor, he remembers everything that might go wrong. He anticipates delay. He imagines that others will be difficult. He expects the letter he needs will not come. The appointment will be disappointing. The opportunity will pass to someone else. He does not consciously say, "Today I shall create difficulty." Yet difficulty is the atmosphere he carries. He leaves his house already defended against life. On his way through the city, a carriage slows his progress. He takes the delay as a personal offense. Everything is against me, he thinks. At the office, a man asks him to wait. He interprets the request as rejection. A message does not arrive at the hour expected, and he decides the whole matter has failed. His assumption gives meaning to every event before the event has revealed its purpose. Because he expects resistance, he sees resistance everywhere. He moves with tension. His voice carries impatience. He overlooks a kind word because it does not agree with the story he is telling himself. He passes an acquaintance who might have offered useful information, but his attention is occupied by complaint. He declines an invitation because he assumes nothing good could come from it. At the end of the day, he returns home with a collection of evidence. Life is difficult, he says. And from his state, the evidence seems undeniable. The second person awakens in the same city. She does not know every event that will occur. She has not been given a map of the day, but she has assumed that she is guided, and that life contains hidden assistance. Before rising, she rests for a moment in the feeling that the day is already held within a greater order. She does not demand that everything unfold according to her preference. She simply feels that whatever happens may become part of a favorable arrangement. She walks into the same streets. A carriage slows her progress. Instead of immediately calling the delay unfortunate, she remains open. While waiting, she notices a familiar face. A conversation begins. A name is mentioned. That name later becomes the link to an opportunity she could not have arranged. At the office, she is asked to wait. She does not translate the pause into rejection. She uses the time quietly. She observes something she would otherwise have missed. A person enters the room, and an introduction occurs. The message she expected does not arrive at the appointed hour. She does not surrender her state to the silence. She thinks, the matter is still unfolding. Later, a different letter comes carrying an answer better than the one she anticipated. The outer events were not entirely different at their beginning. The delay was a delay. The waiting was waiting. The silence was silence. But each person met these appearances from a different assumption, and therefore each entered a different sequence of meaning, action, and consequence. The first man's state narrowed his world. The second woman's state kept the world open. Assumption does not merely influence how you feel about an event after it occurs. It determines what you notice, what you ignore, what you permit, what you refuse, how you speak, how you move, and what actions seem natural. It places you upon a road whose turns correspond to the identity you occupy. This is why the state is creative. The world is filled with possibilities, many of them present at the same moment. Yet you cannot enter all possibilities at once. Your consciousness selects the road you experience by the state from which you live. The anxious man notices danger. The secure man notices opportunity. The rejected woman hears indifference in a pause. The loved woman hears only a pause and remains at peace. The unlucky person sees every interruption as further evidence of misfortune. The person who assumes divine arrangement allows the interruption to reveal its gift. The city may be the same. The state makes it another world. You do not have to command every circumstance. You do not need to tell each person how to behave. You do not need to arrange the hours of tomorrow as though you were moving pieces upon a board. You change the identity from which you enter the board. Then your movements, and the movements of others in relation to you, begin to correspond to that identity. A man who assumes himself unwanted may seek affection, yet his actions will carry the fear of being refused. He may demand reassurance, interpret silence as withdrawal, and create the very distance he dreads. A woman who assumes herself loved does not need to grasp. She speaks from calmness. She gives room without imagining abandonment. Her inner security changes the entire atmosphere of relationship. A man who assumes himself perpetually burdened may be offered assistance and refuse it because accepting help conflicts with his identity. He says, "I must manage alone." Then he complains that no one helps him. Another, who assumes himself supported, recognizes the same offer as natural. He receives without shame. His acceptance permits support to take form. The state determines what you are capable of receiving. A gift may stand before a man, yet if he feels unworthy, he may turn away. A door may open, yet if he identifies as one who is always excluded, he may doubt the invitation and never enter. The miracle may arrive in its first humble form, but the old identity may fail to recognize it. Therefore, do not concentrate only upon attracting events. Become the person capable of receiving them. This is why I tell you that the central assumption is not, "I need a miracle." The phrase, "I need," joins your identity to need. It makes lack the present truth and fulfillment a distant remedy. The deeper assumption is, "My life is a field in which the miraculous appears naturally." Feel the difference. A field does not beg the seed to grow. It receives the seed and gives it a place to express its nature. It does not pursue the rain. It remains open to nourishment. It does not compare its harvest with another field. It yields according to what has been planted within it. To feel that your life is a field in which the miraculous appears naturally is to become receptive without desperation. You do not demand one particular form. You become fertile ground for solutions, restoration, guidance, and unexpected good. The field may produce through many seeds. A miracle may come as an idea. It may come as courage, where fear once ruled. It may come as a person whose arrival changes the direction of years. It may come as a conversation that restores what seemed lost. It may come as a delay that protects you from an unwise road. It may come as a sudden willingness to release something you had struggled to keep. It may come as outward supply. It may come as inward freedom. Do not decide in advance that the miraculous must wear only one face. If you insist that it arrive through a particular door, you may stand pleading before that door while another stands open behind you. Assume the state, not the method. Assume the identity, not the machinery. Say inwardly, "My life is responsive to the good I accept." Let the law choose its instruments. An assumption becomes fact through occupancy. You cannot merely touch a state and expect it to become home. You must remain long enough for its atmosphere to become familiar. This does not mean that you must hold one thought without interruption from morning until night. No human being lives in such strain. To occupy a state is to return to it as your chosen truth. A person may leave his house in the morning, wander through the city all day, and still know where he lives. He does not cease being a resident because he has temporarily walked elsewhere. In the same way, you may encounter a fearful thought and still remain a resident of faith. You may experience a moment of uncertainty and still know your home is guidance. You may react to an appearance and then return without condemnation to the state you have chosen. The question is not whether you ever wander. The question is where you return. The old state became powerful because you returned to it repeatedly. Perhaps after every disappointment you said, "This always happens to me." Perhaps after every delay you said, "Nothing ever works." Each return deepened the pathway until you entered it without conscious decision. Now you make another pathway. At first, the new state may feel like a narrow trail through unfamiliar ground. You must choose it deliberately. The old road is broad because you have traveled it for years. Do not mistake familiarity for inevitability. Each return to the new assumption clears the path. Each imaginal act removes another stone. Each night spent in the fulfilled state makes the journey more natural. Eventually, the new road becomes the one your mind takes without effort. This is the moment when assumption has become character, and character, being habitual consciousness, becomes destiny. You may wonder how to know whether you are assuming properly. Do not measure your success by the absence of all contrary thoughts. Measure it by the increasing naturalness of the new state. Does it become easier to imagine favorable outcomes? Do you recover more quickly when appearances disturb you? Does unexpected good feel less foreign? Can you hear good news inwardly without immediately arguing against it? Can you rest for a few moments as one who is supported? These are signs of movement. A new state rarely enters as a thunderbolt. It often begins as a slight willingness to stop believing the old story. Then comes a moment of relief. Then a new inner conversation. Then one action taken from greater confidence. Then an outer incident corresponding to the change. The first shoot may be small. Do not crush it because it is not yet a tree. Protect naturalness as you would protect a tender flame from wind, not by fearfully guarding every thought, but by returning attention to what you wish to keep alive. If the old identity says, "You see, nothing has happened," answer gently, "I am not waiting for the world to create my state. My state is creating the world." If it says, "Where is the miracle?" answer, "The miraculous is already natural within me. Its visible form is unfolding." If it says, "You are pretending," answer, "Every identity is first assumed. I am choosing consciously what I once accepted unconsciously." There is no need to quarrel. A settled assumption speaks softly. The person who possesses does not plead. Consider a woman who has received a treasured letter. Before it arrives, she waits at the window and listens for every sound. Her attention is restless because possession has not yet been accepted. After the letter is in her hand, her entire posture changes. She no longer asks whether it is coming. The question has ended. To live from assumption is to bring the question to an end inwardly. You may not hold the physical letter yet, but in consciousness you have heard the news. You have felt the relief. You have accepted the completed state. Therefore, you no longer ask imagination to show you whether it is possible. You rest in possession. This inner cessation of questioning is powerful. It does not mean you never think of the desire again. It means you think from fulfillment rather than toward it. You do not imagine yourself trying to become magnetic to miracles. You imagine from the identity of one who already is. How would such a person interpret today? How would she meet delay? How would he speak inwardly when a plan changes? Would she immediately assume that life had turned against her? Would he call every silence rejection? Or would there be beneath the surface a calm remembrance that the whole pattern is intelligent and unfinished? You need not imitate outward behavior artificially. Do not ask yourself to spend money you do not presently have, make reckless promises, or deny practical responsibilities. Living from the end is not careless performance. It is inward orientation. A person may act prudently and still feel abundant. A person may wait and still feel chosen. A person may seek assistance and still feel supported. A person may care for the body and still assume well-being. The state is not proven by foolish gestures. It is revealed in the meaning you give to your actions. You may pay a small sum from the state of fear, thinking, "There will never be enough." Or you may pay the same sum from the state of trust, thinking, "I am a participant in a living flow of supply." The action is identical. The consciousness is not, and consciousness is the cause. The law of assumption is impersonal in its operation. It does not ask whether the state you occupy is helpful or harmful. It does not punish or reward according to human judgment. It simply expresses identification. If you assume that people are dishonest, you will enter a world where dishonesty is continually confirmed. If you assume that you are overlooked, you will notice and participate in patterns of neglect. If you assume that life supports you, you will encounter forms of support. The law does not choose for you. It gives form to the choice you habitually make. This is both the solemn warning and the glorious freedom. You are not condemned by former assumptions. The law that expressed them can express another state just as faithfully. It bears no memory of offense. It says only, "What are you now conscious of being?" Tonight, answer differently. Not with the desperate words of one trying to escape the past, with the quiet consent of one choosing a new home. You may say, "I am the one around whom helpful arrangements gather." Not because you command people as servants, but because your state permits cooperation to appear. You may say, "I am the one who is guided through change." Not because every change is immediately comfortable, but because no change has the power to remove you from divine order. You may say, I am the one who receives unexpected good, not as a demand for spectacle, but as an acceptance that life contains channels beyond the limits of reason. You may say, my life is a field in which the miraculous appears naturally. Then feel the field. Imagine rich soil beneath a quiet night. Many seeds rest there, unseen. Some will become answers, some will become meetings, some will become restored relationships, some will become new directions, some will become strength, some will become peace. You do not need to name every plant before it grows. The field is fertile. That is the identity. To feel yourself as fertile ground for the miraculous is very different from feeling yourself as barren ground begging for one flower. The barren ground watches the sky anxiously and says, why has the rain not come? The fertile field knows life is already within it. Even before the first shoot appears, it contains harvest. This is possession. The world may call your assumption false because it cannot yet see the crop. But the world judges only the surface. You know what has been planted. Remain faithful to the planting. An assumption requires loyalty, not tension. Loyalty means you do not betray the chosen state each time an appearance contradicts it. You may feel disturbed for a moment. You may need to attend to a practical matter, but inwardly you refuse to call contradiction the final truth. You say, this incident has not yet revealed its purpose. You say, the bridge may pass through a scene I would not have selected. You say, my state is larger than this moment. You say, I know where I live. The person who expects resistance sees a wall and stops. The person who expects guidance sees the same wall and looks for the gate. The wall is real to both. The assumption determines the next movement. Perhaps the gate is hidden around a corner. Perhaps another person holds the key. Perhaps the wall itself redirects the traveler toward a better road. The one who assumes opposition curses the wall and remains before it. The one who assumes divine arrangement continues to move. This is how states create experiences without the person consciously planning every detail. The state supplies a range of natural thoughts, interpretations, impulses, and actions. It influences what feels possible. It opens one door of behavior and closes another. You then walk a bridge that seems ordinary because every step feels like your own decision. Later, you look back and say, how perfectly it all came together. The perfection was contained in the state. You became the person who could walk that bridge. A miracle is not always the world bending violently around you. Often it is the world and your own movement meeting in an arrangement so natural that no single moment appears impossible. One person speaks, you answer. An invitation follows, you travel, you meet another. A new thought appears. A decision is made. The end becomes fact. Each link is ordinary. The chain is miraculous. The law of assumption forms such chains continuously. You have already lived through many of them. Think of an event that once seemed accidental but changed the direction of your life. Perhaps you happened to be in a certain place. Perhaps someone used a particular phrase. Perhaps a plan failed, sending you toward another. At the time, you saw only fragments. Later, the fragments formed a pattern. What you call coincidence may be the visible stitching of an invisible state. Tonight, you are choosing the pattern consciously. Do not choose only the surface event. Choose the person for whom favorable patterns are natural. This protects you from dependence upon one manifestation. If you assume only that one door must open, you may fear every movement around that door. But if you assume that your life expresses divine arrangement, one closed door cannot threaten you. The state contains countless doors. If you assume only that one person must bring love, you may remain enslaved to every word and silence. But if you assume yourself loved, the state is greater than one channel. Love must find expression consistent with your fulfilled identity. If you assume only one sum through one method, anxiety may cling to the method. But if you assume yourself supported and supplied, the law has freedom to use means beyond your present sight. Identity is broader than event, and because it is broader, it is more powerful. The state of being magnetic to miracles is not a demand that every hour amaze you. It is the consciousness that your life is open to beautiful correspondences. It is a quiet trust that the ordinary may carry hidden grace. The postman's knock may carry good news. A visitor's delay may produce the right meeting. A conversation at supper may contain the answer. A change in weather may alter a journey and place you where you need to be. A book opened casually may reveal a sentence that resolves months of confusion. Miracles do not always arrive in ceremonial robes. They often enter dressed as common events. The identity that attracts wonders recognizes their approach because it does not insist upon spectacle. It remains awake to possibility. It says, good may come through this. It says, I will not condemn the scene before the final act. It says, the law is able to use what reason would discard. This attitude is not naive optimism. It is fidelity to the creative state. It does not deny intelligence. It expands intelligence beyond immediate appearances. The rational mind knows the roads already traveled. Imagination knows destinations for which no road is yet visible. You need both faculties, but reason must serve the state rather than imprison it. Once the end is assumed, reason becomes useful in carrying out the next natural action. Before the end is assumed, reason often becomes a collector of reasons why fulfillment cannot occur. Give reason a new master. Let the fulfilled state issue the command. Then reason may organize, write, calculate, speak, travel, and act in service of the assumption. You are not abandoning practical life. You are giving practical life a new source. Tonight, as the body becomes still, you are free from the demand to act. You do not need to arrange tomorrow before sleep. You may enter the state in its pure form. Feel yourself in a life where miraculous arrangements have become familiar. Perhaps you hear someone say, things always seem to work out for you. Notice your response. You do not answer with astonishment. You smile because the words describe what you already know. Perhaps another says, how did all of this come together so perfectly? You feel no need to explain every link. You simply know that your life has become responsive to the state you inhabit. Perhaps you stand alone for a moment and think, I am so grateful. What once seemed impossible now feels natural. Let the scene be simple. The important thing is not the exact words. It is the identity from which you hear them. You are no longer the person standing outside the miraculous, pressing your face against the glass. You are inside. You live there. The wonder is not something you observe happening to a distant figure. It belongs to your own biography. Do not strain to make the scene vivid. A whisper of reality is enough. The law responds to acceptance, not artistic perfection. Some hear clearly. Some see. Some feel bodily relief. Some simply know. Use the faculty that comes naturally. If you cannot see the friend's face, hear the voice. If you cannot hear words, feel the warmth of being congratulated. If sensation is faint, accept the quiet thought. Yes, this is now my life. The state can enter through any door. What matters is that you do not remain a spectator. You are not watching another person receive wonders. You are receiving. You are not hearing a story about someone favored. You are the one being described. You are not waiting for a miraculous life. You are remembering that it is yours. Allow that remembrance to settle below language. My life is a field in which the miraculous appears naturally. Do not repeat it mechanically. Feel what it implies. The field does not chase the harvest. It contains the conditions from which harvest grows. The field is not empty because the surface is quiet. Life is present beneath it. The field does not fear that another field has received more rain. Its own law is operating. The field does not ask how every seed will break open. It rests beneath the night and permits the hidden work. So rest as that field. Your assumptions are seeds. Your feeling is nourishment. Your persistence is protection. The darkness of sleep is not absence. It is gestation. And the wonders that will later appear are already related to the identity you accept now. You need no miracle to prove that you are magnetic. You assume magnetism first. You need no favorable event to prove that life responds beautifully. You accept the responsive life first. You need no open road to prove that you are guided. You inhabit guidance first. The evidence follows the identity. This is the law. The first person waits for miracles to change who he is. The second changes who she is, and allows miracles to express the change. The first says, when life becomes kind, I will trust it. The second says, I trust the law within, and life will reflect that trust. The first walks through the city gathering evidence of resistance. The second walks through the same city participating in hidden assistance. Tonight, decide which traveler will awaken within you, not by force, not by condemning the one who feared. That former traveler did the best he could from the state he occupied. Bless him and let him rest. You are choosing another identity now. You are the one who sees beyond the first appearance. You are the one who allows delay to serve rather than frighten. You are the one who receives guidance through ordinary means. You are the one who recognizes that a changed plan may conceal a greater arrangement. You are the one whose life has become fertile ground for wonder. Let this person become familiar to you. Feel how she rises in the morning. There is no need for frantic expectation. She does not search every corner for proof. She simply carries a quiet openness. Feel how he walks through the day. He is attentive, but not anxious. He is ready to act, but not compelled to force. He trusts that the next step will reveal itself. Feel how this person meets an apparent obstacle. There may be disappointment, but no final despair. There is a deeper remembrance. This is not the whole story. Feel how this person enters sleep, not begging, not bargaining, not asking whether the law has heard, resting in identity. This is occupancy, and occupancy is what hardens assumption into fact. You may begin with only a few moments tonight. A state fully entered for a moment may possess more creative power than hours of empty repetition. Then, whenever you remember, return. Return tomorrow evening. Return when fear speaks. Return when good appears, not merely to celebrate the event, but to strengthen recognition of the identity from which it came. Every return says, this is my home. Eventually, the world must agree. It will not agree because you fought it. It will agree because the world has no other function than to reveal the state habitually occupied. The city will answer the traveler. The mirror will answer the face. The field will answer the seed. The echo will answer the voice. And life will answer the identity that now rests quietly within you. So do not say, I need a miracle. Need keeps the miracle at a distance. Say inwardly, with the calmness of one accepting a new nature, my life is a field in which the miraculous appears naturally. Then release the words and keep the feeling, a field, open, fertile, quiet beneath the night, filled with unseen beginnings. You do not need to know which seed will rise first. You do not need to know which person will be moved. You do not need to know which road will bend toward you. You do not need to know which ordinary event will reveal itself as extraordinary. Your work is the state. The law performs the arrangement. Rest then as the person around whom beautiful arrangements are natural. Rest as one who possesses inwardly before the senses confirm. Rest as one whose assumptions are becoming fact, even now. And let the city of tomorrow meet the new traveler who is being born tonight. Now we come to the element that gives life to every assumption. Words may point toward a state, but feeling enters it. Words may describe the house, but feeling crosses the threshold and sits within its rooms. Words may speak of fulfillment, but feeling is the quiet evidence that fulfillment has been accepted. This is why I have said that feeling is the secret. Do not misunderstand the word feeling. I do not mean that you must summon a violent emotion or force yourself into excitement. I do not ask you to make the heart race, to strain for joy, or to persuade yourself through exhaustion. Such effort often reveals that you still feel separated from the state you desire. The feeling of fulfillment is usually quieter than longing imagines it will be. Before a desire is fulfilled, the mind may picture great excitement. It imagines shouting, weeping, trembling, and being overwhelmed. But after the desire has become a natural part of life, another feeling appears. There is relief, there is ease, there is the simple certainty that the matter is settled. The person who has safely arrived does not spend every hour celebrating the end of the journey. She rests because she is there. The person who has received the answer no longer repeats the question. The person who knows she is loved does not continuously demand proof. Love has become part of the atmosphere in which she lives. The person who is secure does not awaken each morning astonished that safety remains. Security feels natural. Naturalness is the feeling I wish you to discover tonight. You may speak the most beautiful words, but if beneath them you feel that they are untrue, the deeper mind receives the contradiction. You may say, I am supported, while inwardly bracing for abandonment. You may say, life responds beautifully to me, while secretly expecting refusal. You may say, I am magnetic to miracles, while feeling that miracles belong to a distant and fortunate world. The lips offer one statement. The body offers another. The deeper mind listens to the statement embodied. It hears the tightening of the chest. It hears the guarded breath. It hears the stomach holding itself against tomorrow. It hears the shoulders carrying duties that have not yet arrived. It hears the face arranged in anticipation of disappointment. The body often reveals the state more faithfully than the words. This is not a reason to judge yourself. It is an invitation to become aware. If your body is tense, you have not failed. You have merely discovered where the old story is still being held. The body has remembered what the mind repeated. For years, perhaps, you have prepared yourself for difficulty. You may have believed that tension made you responsible, that worry kept trouble away, that imagining the worst protected you from surprise. So the body learned to remain ready. The jaw tightened, the hands held on, the breath became shallow, the heart listened for danger. The stomach prepared for news that had not yet come. And after living this way for so long, tension may feel ordinary. But what is ordinary can be changed. Tonight, we shall not fight the body. We shall give it another message. We shall allow the body to experience, even for a little while, what it would feel like if life had already proven itself benevolent. Do not hurry to answer. Let the question descend gently. What would it feel like if life had already shown you that you are not forgotten? How would the body rest if the answer already existed? How would you breathe if you knew the road was being prepared? What would leave your shoulders if you no longer believed you must carry every detail alone? What would soften in the face if you expected kindness rather than resistance? What quietness would enter the stomach if tomorrow were not an approaching enemy, but an unfolding part of divine arrangement? You need not imagine the full event yet. Begin with the body of the fulfilled state. Perhaps there would be a slower breath. Perhaps the hands would unclench. Perhaps the tongue would rest softly in the mouth. Perhaps the space around the heart would feel wider. Perhaps you would sink more fully into the bed because you no longer felt required to remain inwardly standing guard. Let the bed hold you. You do not need to hold yourself above it. Let the surface beneath you receive the weight you have carried through the day. Nothing is asked of you in this moment. You are not required to explain the past. You are not required to arrange the morning. You are not required to discover how the miracle will come. Your only invitation is to feel how you might rest if the miracle were no longer needed, because the state of fulfillment had already been accepted. There is a difference between wanting relief and feeling relieved. Wanting relief keeps attention upon the burden. Feeling relieved implies that the burden has been lifted. The mind may say, but it has not been lifted outwardly. I ask you to remember that the feeling comes first. If you wait for the world to grant you permission to relax, you remain the servant of appearances. If you allow relief to arise now, you plant the state from which relieving circumstances may grow. Take one soft breath, not a forced breath. Not a breath designed to accomplish something. Simply let the air enter and leave. Notice that you did not have to command life to give you that breath. It came. Another breath follows. Life continues to support you in ways so constant that the mind has ceased to call them miraculous. The heart moves, the blood flows, the body rests upon the earth, and the earth holds it. You are already surrounded by invisible support. Begin there. Do not attempt to leap from fear into ecstasy. Move from fear into 1 degree more safety. Move from strain into 1 degree more ease. Move from uncertainty into the soft thought that an answer may already be forming. A small change of feeling is still a change of state. The seed does not need to become a tree in one instant. It needs only to open. Let the feeling open. Perhaps you can say inwardly, something has changed. Do not ask what changed. Let the words suggest a shift too quiet for the senses to measure. Something has changed. The old story no longer possesses all the room. A new possibility has entered. A different future has found a place within consciousness. Something has changed. You may not see it. You may not know its shape. You may not yet hear the footsteps of its arrival. But the atmosphere is different because you have consented to another state. Let that recognition rest within you. Something has changed. Feel how the sentence does not demand excitement. It asks only for recognition. A door within has opened. A knot has loosened. A former conclusion no longer feels absolute. Something has changed. Now allow another thought to approach. I am no longer alone in this. Perhaps you have felt alone with a responsibility, alone with a fear, alone with a decision, alone with a longing no one else fully understood. You may have spoken to others, yet still felt that the true burden remained within you. But the creative power is not outside you and absent. The awareness that carries the desire also carries the means of fulfillment. The imagination within you is not a powerless witness. It is the living presence through which states become facts. You are no longer alone in this because you have discovered the place where the cause may be changed. You do not need to persuade the whole world. You do not need to move every person. You do not need to push every circumstance. You need only return to the state. The state will summon its own witnesses. I am no longer alone in this. Feel the companionship implied in those words. Not necessarily the companionship of a particular person, though people may come. It is the companionship of law. The companionship of an intelligence that knows how to connect events. The companionship of imagination, which may enter the end before reason has found the road. The companionship of the deeper self, which has never accepted the finality of your limitations. You are no longer standing before a closed world. You are living within a responsive one. Let the breath soften again. The air enters. The air leaves. You are no longer alone in this. Now let another recognition settle. Life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet see. The mind may wish to see the arrangement immediately. It may ask for names, dates, places, and visible signs. But what is hidden is not necessarily absent. Roots are hidden. The movement of thought in another person is hidden. A decision being reconsidered is hidden. The writing of a letter is hidden until the letter arrives. A road being prepared is hidden until you are invited to walk it. Life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet see. This statement allows the unseen to exist without your supervision. It releases you from the impossible duty of knowing every means. It permits another person to be moved without your instruction. It permits the right moment to gather itself. It permits one incident to lead to another until the pattern becomes visible. You do not need to stare into the darkness to make the root grow. Life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet see. Let those words become a resting place, not an excuse to avoid action, but freedom from anxious action. When movement is required, the impulse will come. When a letter must be written, you will know. When a conversation must occur, the opportunity will appear. When you must wait, patience will feel more natural than force. The state contains its own movement. You need not manufacture it tonight. Tonight, you rest in the arrangement. Life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet see. Now let the next recognition rise. The answer already exists. Before the question appeared in your conscious mind, the state of the answer existed as a possibility within awareness. You could not desire resolution if resolution were absent from consciousness. You could not imagine freedom if freedom were not available as a state. The answer already exists. You are not creating possibility from nothing. You are selecting from the infinite states already contained within being. The house has many rooms. You have lived in the room of the question. Now you enter the room of the answer. The answer already exists. It may not yet exist as a visible object, a spoken sentence, or an arranged event, but it exists as a completed state, and the state is the true beginning of form. Feel how the question changes when the answer is accepted. The question loses urgency. The mind stops circling. The body no longer needs to lean forward into the future. The answer already exists. You may not know it intellectually. You may not be able to explain it. You may not see how it can enter the world you know. But the answer exists in consciousness, and consciousness knows how to clothe its states. Rest there. Something has changed. I am no longer alone in this. Life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet see. The answer already exists. These are not magical words. They are doorways into feeling. Do not repeat them as a person knocking frantically upon a locked house. Enter. Feel what each one implies. Something has changed. The old state is no longer the only state. I am no longer alone in this. The power of imagination is present. Life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet see. The bridge is forming beyond the senses. The answer already exists. The fulfilled state is available now. Allow the meaning to move through the body. Perhaps the forehead can soften. You no longer need to think your way through every possible difficulty. Perhaps the eyes can rest more deeply behind closed lids. You no longer need to search the darkness for evidence. Perhaps the jaw can release. You no longer need to hold unspoken arguments. Perhaps the shoulders can sink. You no longer need to carry tomorrow before it arrives. Perhaps the chest can open a little. You are no longer bracing against life. Perhaps the stomach can become quiet. The future is not required to repeat the past. Perhaps the hands can rest. There is nothing to seize. There is nothing to force. The answer already exists. Feeling is the language the subconscious understands, because feeling is acceptance made bodily. It is an idea no longer observed from a distance. It has entered the nerves, the breath, the posture, the inner atmosphere. You may repeat the word peace while remaining tense, and peace remains an idea. But when the body softens into peace, even briefly, peace has become a state. You may speak of support, but when you allow the bed to hold you and inwardly cease carrying the whole problem, support becomes an experience. You may speak of divine arrangement, but when you release the demand to know how, arrangement becomes believable. The subconscious is not persuaded by argument. It receives what consciousness consents to feel as real. This is why one brief imaginal moment may accomplish more than hours of forced repetition. In that brief moment, you may forget the old condition. You may become absorbed in the fulfilled state. The body may respond as if the event were present. A smile may rise without command. A sigh may escape. Tears may appear, not from sorrow, but from release. Or perhaps nothing dramatic occurs. You simply know. Quiet knowing is feeling. Do not overlook it, because it makes no spectacle. The deepest certainty is often silent. The sun does not shout while it rises. Light simply increases. So let certainty increase gently within you. You are not trying to convince a hostile power. You are not presenting evidence before a judge. You are not pleading your case before heaven. The creative power is your own awareness of being. You are allowing that awareness to wear another mood. A mood is not a trivial thing. It is a state condensed into atmosphere. A person carries a mood into a room, and before he speaks, others feel something of it. A mood shapes the voice, the gaze, the movement, and the interpretation of events. If you sleep in a mood of defeat, you awaken into the habits of defeat. If you sleep in the mood of relief, the deeper mind begins to organize experience around relief. The mood may be very gentle. It may be the mood of all is well. Not all is visibly complete. Not every question has been answered by the senses. Yet beneath appearance, all is moving toward order. All is well. Feel how different this is from excitement. Excitement often looks for the event. Peace rests in the state. Excitement asks, when will it come? Certainty says, it is done in consciousness. Excitement rises and falls. Naturalness remains. Tonight, choose naturalness. Imagine that life has already proven itself kind to you many times. Imagine you are remembering, not hoping. You have seen doors open. You have been led through difficulty. Answers have come. Assistance has appeared. You are looking back upon a pattern and saying, I was guided even when I could not see it. What would that memory feel like? There might be gratitude, but not desperation. There might be wonder, but not disbelief. There might be humility, not because you are powerless, but because the arrangement was wiser than your conscious plan. There might be a soft smile at the perfection of events. Allow yourself to borrow the feeling of that future memory. Imagine that you are already beyond the present concern. You look back and understand. You see why the delay occurred. You see why one door closed. You see how the right person entered. You see how the answer formed. You say, of course, it all belonged. Feel the release of understanding before understanding arrives outwardly. You do not need the details, you need the mood. The mood says, it worked out beautifully. Let that sentence move through you. It worked out beautifully. Not by force, not through your anxious supervision. The path formed. The words were spoken. The means appeared. It worked out beautifully. How would your body lie here if you were remembering success rather than anticipating failure? Perhaps you would sink deeper. Perhaps the breath would lengthen. Perhaps you would feel a gentle warmth near the heart. Perhaps the night would no longer seem like an interval before another difficult day. It would feel like a sanctuary between fulfillment and its visible expression. It worked out beautifully. The phrase need not refer to one narrow event. Let it cover the whole field of your life. The matter of supply worked out beautifully. The relationship found its proper harmony. The body found greater ease. The journey became possible. The decision became clear. The old fear lost its authority. It worked out beautifully. Feel the simplicity of the completed tense. Not it will work. It worked. The event is behind you in imagination. You stand beyond it. This is thinking from the end. The body knows the difference between approaching danger and remembered resolution. When you imagine danger, the body prepares to fight what has not happened. When you remember fulfillment imaginatively, the body receives peace from what has not yet appeared outwardly. In both cases, the physical event may be absent, yet the body responds. This is proof that imagination is already affecting your present reality. Use the faculty deliberately. Let the body rehearse relief instead of fear. Let it rehearse support instead of abandonment. Let it rehearse completion instead of endless waiting. The world teaches you to rehearse problems, so you may be prepared. I teach you to rehearse fulfillment, so you may become aligned with it. Preparation for fear makes fear familiar. Preparation for fulfillment makes fulfillment natural. What is natural is received without resistance. Suppose a large good came to someone who felt entirely unworthy of it. The good might produce anxiety. She might fear losing it, distrust it, or unconsciously return to the former state. But when the identity and feeling have changed first, the good arrives in a prepared home. It belongs. It is welcomed. It remains consistent with the new conception of self. This is why feeling precedes stable manifestation. You are preparing the home. You are making miracles feel less like intruders and more like family. Unexpected good is becoming emotionally familiar. Guidance is becoming familiar. Ease is becoming familiar. The feeling that life supports you is becoming familiar. At first, this may seem strange. The old nervous system may be more familiar with tension than peace. A quiet night may cause the mind to search for something to worry about, because worry has become its occupation. If this happens, do not condemn yourself. The mind is reaching for the work it knows. Give it another work. Let it imagine the completed scene. Let it listen inwardly to a kind voice. Let it feel the warmth of a hand. Let it rest in the sentence. The answer already exists. You are not leaving the mind empty. You are giving it a new object of devotion. Over time, peace becomes less strange. The body learns that it may rest without inviting danger. The heart learns that expectancy need not mean fear. The mind learns that silence may contain arrangement. The whole being begins to inhabit the new state. And now there is nothing more for you to accomplish tonight. The work is not measured by how long you remain awake. It is not measured by how perfectly you remember these words. It is not measured by the number of times you repeat a phrase, nor by the vividness of every image. The work is done when the state has been accepted, even softly, even for one quiet moment in which the old identity lost its authority, and another way of being felt natural. Perhaps you heard every word. Perhaps some of these words passed beneath your conscious attention. Perhaps you drifted into sleep and returned again. Perhaps you are already resting so deeply that my voice seems like a distant sound moving through the night. All of this is well. You were never required to remain awake in order to receive the seed. The seed does not ask the soil to watch it grow. It asks only to be received. And tonight it has been received. Somewhere beneath the thoughts that once demanded an answer, a quieter knowing has begun. Somewhere beneath the fear that insisted upon evidence, another state has taken root. Somewhere beyond the reach of the senses, consciousness has accepted the possibility that your life may respond differently because you have become different within. You need not examine that change now. You need not search for it. You need not disturb the soil to see whether the seed has opened. Let it be hidden. Let it be quiet. Let it belong to the night. The night is fertile. The darkness is not empty. It is filled with beginnings too delicate for the senses to observe. The earth appears still while roots extend beneath it. The sky appears silent while the morning approaches. The body lies quiet while life continues its countless hidden movements. So it is with your assumption. It may seem that nothing is happening because nothing requires your attention, but the deepest movement does not always announce itself. It does not need to awaken you. It does not need to prove itself before the appointed hour. The deeper mind knows what to do with a feeling accepted as true. It knows how to translate identity into thought. It knows how to translate thought into inclination. It knows how to translate inclination into action. It knows how to bring people, conversations, opportunities, and circumstances into a pattern that expresses the state you have chosen. You do not need to supervise the pattern. You do not need to name every person who may become part of it. You do not need to know which road will open or which road will quietly disappear. You need not know whether the answer will come through a letter, a conversation, a journey, a remembered name, a changed decision, or an idea that enters gently after waking. The means belong to the law. The state belongs to you, and the state has been chosen. Rest in that simplicity. You have not asked a distant power to consider your request. You have entered the consciousness in which the request is fulfilled. You have not stood outside the door pleading to be admitted. You have discovered that the door opens inwardly, and that the key is the feeling of already being within. Nothing more is required tonight. There may be a part of you that still wishes to ask, have I done enough? Let that question grow quiet. You have done enough. There may be a part of you that wonders, did I feel it correctly? There is no need to judge the feeling. A moment of relief was enough. A moment of safety was enough. A moment in which you imagined that life was arranging itself was enough to begin the movement. The seed does not need your perfection. It needs your acceptance. You may have felt only a small softening in the body. You may have noticed the shoulders release. You may have taken one breath without fear. You may have heard inwardly a single sentence and believed it for only a moment. Do not call that moment small. A key is small compared with the door it opens. A seed is small compared with the tree it contains. A whispered assumption is small compared with the world it may one day become. The measure of an imaginal act is not its outward drama. Its measure is the state it implies. And tonight, something within you has implied fulfillment. Something within you has remembered support. Something within you has consented to guidance. Something within you has become willing to expect unexpected good. Let that willingness remain untouched by effort. You do not have to carry it as a burden into sleep. You do not have to hold the state tightly, fearing that it may escape. A state held through fear becomes another form of strain. Let it rest lightly. Let it rest within you as naturally as the breath rests within the body. You do not hold each breath after receiving it. You allow it to move. In the same way, allow the assumption to move into the deeper mind. You have planted it. Now release it from conscious effort. The farmer does not keep the seed in his hand because he fears losing it. He gives it to the soil. Give your assumption to the night. Let the night cover it. Let the old story remain outside the field. It has spoken enough. It has explained itself enough. It has repeated its predictions enough. Tonight, it no longer receives the final word. The final word belongs to the new state, not shouted, not argued, simply accepted. All is well. Even if the senses have not yet confirmed it, all is well in consciousness. The answer exists. Even if reason cannot trace the road, the answer exists. The bridge is forming. Even if the first stone is hidden, the bridge is forming. you are guided. Even if tomorrow's steps are not yet visible, you are guided. You are supported. Even if support has not yet chosen its outward form, you are supported. Let these truths become quieter now. They do not need to remain sentences. They may become atmosphere. A gentle atmosphere of safety. A gentle atmosphere of completion. A gentle atmosphere of being held within an order wiser than conscious planning. The words may fade while the atmosphere remains, and that is enough. You may sleep beneath the feeling that your life is not abandoned to chance. You may sleep knowing that consciousness is creative, that an assumption accepted in the silence seeks its own expression, and that no visible appearance has the authority to cancel the state you now occupy. The old appearance may still be present in the morning. Do not be troubled by it. A field does not become barren because the first morning reveals no flower. The seed remains beneath the soil. The work continues where the eye cannot follow. You may awaken in the same room. You may see the same objects. You may remember the same responsibilities, but you need not awaken as the same person. The room may be unchanged while the inhabitant is new, and because the inhabitant is new, the meaning of the room has already begun to change. You may rise with a little less heaviness. You may meet an old condition without entering the old identity. You may hear a familiar fear and discover that it no longer speaks with the same authority. You may notice a thought that seems almost too simple to matter. Follow it gently. You may feel moved to write a letter, to wait before answering, to visit a place, to speak kindly, to decline what no longer belongs to you, or to accept an invitation you might once have refused. Do not strain to decide whether each movement is part of the bridge. Live naturally from the new state. The bridge will not always announce itself. A step may feel ordinary while carrying you toward an extraordinary fulfillment. You are not required to call every pleasant event a sign. You are not required to search the day anxiously for evidence. Anxious searching returns you to the identity that does not possess. The one who possesses rests. The one who is guided moves when movement comes. The one who is supported receives without suspicion. The one who is magnetic to miracles does not chase each miracle down the road. Such a person becomes still enough to allow correspondence. Rest now as that person, not as one practicing a technique, not as one waiting for the technique to work, as the one whose life is already rooted in a different state. There is no strain in identity. The bird does not practice being a bird. The rose does not repeat that it is a rose in order to persuade the garden. It expresses its nature. Tonight, you have assumed another nature, a nature receptive to grace, a nature familiar with guidance, a nature in which beautiful arrangements are no longer foreign. Let that nature express itself without constant examination. You may return to these words on another night, not because the seed planted tonight has failed, but because every return may deepen the naturalness of the state. You may let this quiet journey accompany you again whenever you wish to remember who you have chosen to be. Each return need not be a new beginning. It may be a homecoming, a return to the inner chamber, a return to the feeling that life responds beautifully, a return to the identity that does not plead for miracles because the miraculous has become part of its atmosphere. But there is no need to think of another night now. This night is enough. This breath is enough. This bed is enough. This quiet moment is enough. Let tomorrow remain unopened. You do not need to enter it before its hour. The morning will arrive in its own way. The light will find the room. The body will awaken when it is ready. The world will present its next scene. And when it does, the state you carry will meet it. You need not prepare every response. The new identity will supply new responses naturally. Where the former self saw only resistance, you may notice an opening. Where the former self heard rejection, you may hear an unfinished sentence. Where the former self rushed to force an answer, you may feel moved to wait. Where the former self assumed that a delay meant failure, you may sense that an arrangement is still forming. These changes may be subtle. Honor them. A miracle often begins as a new interpretation before it becomes a new event. It begins when fear is no longer the only possible response. It begins when one closed door no longer appears to contain the whole future. It begins when the body rests before circumstances offer permission. It begins when consciousness accepts support without demanding that the senses first reveal its source. Tonight, that beginning has occurred. The seed is beneath the soil. The field is quiet. The night is fertile. The deeper mind knows what to do. You may let go now. Let go of the need to repeat perfectly. Let go of the need to imagine vividly. Let go of the need to remain awake. Let go of the need to know how the world will answer. You have given the world its cause. The answer will take its form. Perhaps you are still listening consciously. Then listen only a little longer. Feel the weight of the body. Feel the quiet beneath the thoughts. Feel the darkness around you, gentle and undemanding. Nothing is being taken from you as you sleep. You are not losing control. You are entering the region where control gives way to creation. The conscious mind may rest. The deeper mind remains receptive. The outer senses may close. The inner state remains alive. There is no danger in sleep. Sleep does not separate you from the fulfillment. It draws the assumption deeper. Sleep does not interrupt the imaginal act. It seals it. Sleep does not silence creation. It gives creation the darkness in which its first hidden movements may begin. So allow sleep to come without resistance. There is no need to chase it. There is no need to wonder whether it is near. Simply cease holding yourself away from it. Let the body become heavier. Let the breath become quieter. Let the room become farther away. The bed holds you. The earth holds the bed. Life holds the earth. You are supported more completely than the anxious mind has understood. Rest in that support. Perhaps one final image remains. A dark field beneath a peaceful sky. The soil is still. No one can see the seed, yet within the seed is a complete pattern. Roots, branches, leaves, fruit, shade, all hidden within what appears small and silent. Your new state is such a seed. Within it are the conversations you will one day hear, the doors you will one day enter, the relief you will one day touch as an outer fact, the people whose movements will become part of the bridge, the decisions that will seem natural when their hour comes. The whole tree is contained within the seed. You need not build the branches tonight. You need not paint the leaves. You need not pull the roots downward or the shoot upward. The pattern knows. The law knows. The deeper mind knows. Rest. If an old thought appears, let it pass without discussion. It is only a traveler crossing a distant road. You do not need to follow it. If a former fear returns, let it be an echo fading through the valley. You do not need to answer it. If a question asks how the fulfillment will come, allow silence to be your reply. The seed does not explain the tree, it becomes it. You are becoming the state, not through effort now, through rest, not through pleading, through acceptance, not through pursuit, through identity. The one who waited is growing quiet. The one who possessed inwardly is becoming natural. The one who asked life for signs is resting in the knowledge that life itself will become the sign. You may no longer hear every word. That is well. Let the spaces between the words grow wider. Let silence carry what language no longer needs to say. You are guided. You are held. You are received. The answer exists. The bridge is forming. All is well. Rest. There is nothing to solve, nothing to force, nothing to prove. The world does not require your wakefulness in order to rearrange itself. People may be moved while you sleep. Ideas may ripen while you sleep. Old conditions may begin to lose their roots while you sleep. New possibilities may gather their form while you sleep. And even when no outer movement can yet be seen, consciousness has already moved. That is the beginning. That is the cause. That is enough. Allow gratitude to appear only if it comes naturally. A quiet thankfulness, not gratitude used as a bargain. Not gratitude offered in order to make something happen. The gratitude of one who has accepted that something has already happened within. Thank you. The state is chosen. Thank you. The seed is planted. Thank you. I no longer carry the whole matter alone. Thank you. The night knows what to do. Let even those words fade. The feeling remains, a soft warmth, a quiet release, the sense that a burden has been placed into wiser hands, though those hands are not outside you. They are the hands of your own wonderful human imagination, the divine creative power within. It has received your instruction. It does not sleep in the way the body sleeps. It continues to shape, to select, to connect, and to express. Trust it, not as a power separate from you. Trust it as your deepest being. You are not begging imagination to help you. You are imagination assuming a state, and the state must become visible in its appointed way. Rest then in your own creative nature. You are not a forgotten creature waiting beneath an indifferent sky. You are the awareness in which the sky, the room, the body, the desire, and the fulfilled state appear. You are the chooser. You have chosen. Now rest. The morning need not be miraculous in a way that startles you. It may begin gently. A different thought, a quieter mood, a little more courage, a sense that today does not belong entirely to yesterday. Receive these subtle beginnings. Do not demand the whole harvest when the first shoot appears. Let the new state grow in naturalness. Return to it when you remember. Live from it when you act. Sleep in it when night returns. And allow the world to reveal, step by step, what consciousness accepted in a moment. The final evidence belongs to the senses. The first act belongs to imagination. You have performed the first act. The senses may wait. You need not wait with them. You may sleep in fulfillment now. You may sleep beyond the question. You may sleep beyond the old prediction. You may sleep beyond the identity that believed life had passed it by. You are no longer asking when the miracle will come. You are no longer measuring the distance between yourself and the answer. You are no longer standing at the gate. The gate has opened inwardly. You have entered. Rest there. Let the chamber be quiet. Let the fulfilled state surround you. No explanation is needed within this chamber. No argument can follow you here. You know only that you are guided. You know only that life is capable of beautiful arrangement. You know only that unexpected good is natural to the identity you now accept. Let this knowing become softer, softer than thought, softer than breath, softer than the sound of my voice. It may become nothing more than peace. And peace is enough. You are no longer waiting for the miracle. You are resting in the state from which miracles are born. Sleep now in the certainty of being guided. Sleep in the feeling that all is well. Sleep as the one to whom unexpected good is natural. Sleep as the one whose life responds beautifully. Sleep as the one who is supported by movements not yet seen. Sleep as the one for whom the right path reveals itself at the right time. Sleep without asking the night to show you the morning. The morning is already contained within it. Sleep without asking the seed to show you the tree. The tree is already contained within it. Sleep without asking consciousness to show you the means. The means are already contained within the state. All is well. You may rest. All is well. You may let go. All is well. The work is done. The seed is planted. The night is fertile. The deeper mind knows what to do. You are guided. You are supported. You are safe to sleep. You are no longer waiting. You are resting in possession. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep gently. And let the world, in its own perfect way, become the faithful witness of the state you have accepted tonight.